Mr. Allen, how long have you and the defendant been together?
Off and on for about 14 years.
You have a child, is that right, together?
That's correct.
How old?
He's 6.
You're no longer together with the defendant, is that right?
That is absolutely right.
Who has custody of the boy?
She does.
Really? How did that happen?
We just both agreed through family probate court that she'd have custody.
That's a sort of strange. What's wrong with you?
Nothing. That's just the way we decided to do it.
Well, I'm curious about that, considering what this case is about.
She has her problems, but she drinks a lot, is what it is. And I don't think that she's a good mother, is what it comes down to.
You can't be a good mother and drink a lot, Mr. Allen. Those two things don't go together.
That's where I come in.
What do you mean that's where you come in?
I stay at her house while she goes out and drinks. I know, it's not a smart thing, but...
In what jurisdiction do you live?
In Worcester County.
Which is where?
Massachusetts.
How many children do you have, Mr. Allen?
I have 2 myself.
There was a certain hesitation in that, Mr. Allen.
It's 2.
2 is an answer. How old are they?
One's 16, one's 6.
And where does your 16-year-old live?
He lives with his mother.
And how many children did you give birth to, Miss Goodell?
The one.
This is what this case is about. Then maybe we'll revisit this issue. It is your claim that Miss Goodell, while out on a bender, drinking at a bar, brought home a male stranger to the house. That male, who she brought home to the house, damaged your motorcycle by knocking it over. We are going to assume, for the purposes of this case, that that did in fact happen, that your motorcycle was damaged as a result of this stranger that Miss Goodell brought home to the house. Your theory is that since Miss Goodell could not tell you the name of this person, that her conduct created a situation that enabled this to happen, and therefore she should pay for the motorcycle damage.
Correct.
So I'm going to find out the story, then maybe we'll go back and revisit this whole thing. What do you do for a living, Mr. Allen?
I work in an IT department at a business, Mass Mutual.
And how long have you worked for them?
About 6 months.
Prior to that, where were you working?
I was a subcontractor for a cable company.
And how long did you work for them?
A few years.
How many years?
2.
And where does Miss Goodell work?
She works at a dental office.
How many days a week?
3, sometimes 4.
Excuse me?
3, sometimes 4 days.
She worked part-time or full-time?
Full-time hours, but part-time days.
She paid in check or cash? Look at me.
Cash. I get paid in cash. Is that what you mean?
I didn't ask you about you.
Oh, sorry.
I asked about her. Where do you live?
Right now I'm staying with my parents.
How long have you been staying with your parents?
Since this incident.
And when was this incident?
October 14th.
And when did you go to court and agree that Miss Goodell had custody of your son?
I'd say 2008.
Does Miss Goodell receive any sort of supplementary assistance from the state for her support or the support of your child? Look at me.
You'd have to ask her. I believe so.
That's something you would know, Mr. Allen. So the answer is either yes or no.
Yes.
Do you pay support for your son?
I help her out.
That's not what I asked you. Do you pay support for your son?
Yes.
Through the court?
No.
To the state?
Nope.
You think this was going to be easy, Mr. Allen?
No.
Not easy.
No.
Not easy.
All right.
Now, when you moved out of the house after this incident on October 14th, when the mother of your child, who was out on a drinking binge and brought home a stranger to the house, according to you, with your son sleeping in the room right next to you.
Correct.
You thought it was a good idea to move out and leave him there with his mother.
No, I took him that night. I left with him.
Just a second. You left with him that night?
Yes.
How did he get back to his mother?
She picked him up the next day at my mother's.
And what did you do?
What was I supposed to do?
Go back to court and say she's unfit to take care of him. She brings home strangers who she doesn't know to your house while drunk in the middle of the night. That's what she says in her answer, right? That's what you said in your answer. I did read it right, didn't I?
Correct.
That's what I would do as a parent. I would go into court the next day and I would say, listen, this arrangement in 2008 is no good because my son is a child, he's at risk. You don't drink, do you, Mr. Allen?
Not very often, no.
Do you use drugs, Mr. Allen?
No.
Ever?
In the past.
How far in the past?
8 years.
Who else lives in your parents' house?
My...
Don't look over there.
No,
And
I'm
you
sorry.
shouldn't have to think about it.
My brother lives there, and my parents.
And do your parents work?
Yes, they do.
Both of them?
Yes.
How long had you been living in Miss Goodell's house?
6 months.
Prior to that, where did you live?
I lived with an ex-girlfriend in Connecticut.
Well, that was an off, because you've been on and off, according to you, with Miss Goodell for 14 years. So that wasn't very long.
No, we took like a 4-year break.
And are you telling me that for 4 years you lived with this ex-girlfriend? And if I were to call your mother now at work, she would tell me that you live home now for about 6 months, and before that you lived with your girlfriend in Connecticut for 4 years?
Yes, correct. I had my own apartment before that.
In Connecticut?
In Massachusetts.
Is that where you lived with the girlfriend?
The ex-girlfriend was in Connecticut. It's just over the line in Massachusetts.
So she lived with you?
No, I lived with her, at her house.
I thought you said you had your own apartment.
Before her, I did.
Well, that was, now we're talking 5 years ago.
Yeah, I didn't know how far you wanted to go back.
You said you took a 4, you see, Mr. Allen, you said you took a 4-year break from Miss Goodell. That was at the time when you were living with the girlfriend in Connecticut, right across the border. Before that, you said you had your own apartment. Well, you can't have it both. Either you had your own apartment or you were living with Miss Goodell. Which was it?
When I broke up with the girlfriend, I moved in with Miss Goodell.
Well, that was afterwards, sir. We're talking about before. You said before that I had my own apartment.
Correct.
That was 5 years ago.
About that.
Well, if 5 years ago you had your own apartment, then you weren't living with Miss Goodell.
No, I wasn't. I wasn't living with Miss Goodell 5 years ago.
When did you live with Miss Goodell?
Up to about 6 months ago.
You said you were on and off for 14 years. You have a 6-year-old child, Mr.
Yes.
Allen.
Correct.
I think the state ought to think about coming in and taking your son.
Yeah, well, that's your opinion.
Yeah, that's my opinion. If the answers that I get from her are anything similar to what I'm getting from you, I would take a long, hard look at whether this is an appropriate household to raise children in. You babysit for your son while his mother goes out and gets drunk, and then you go home to stay with your mother and father, and I would take a careful look at what's going on here. Now, you want to tell me what happened? What night did you go out and get loaded and bring home a stranger?
It was Wednesday night, October 13th. I play in a shuffleboard league on Wednesday nights, and I was out with friends. Going back to being on and off for 14 years, one of the main issues that we have together is that Doug is known for stalking and harassing and annoying phone calls, rude text messages, things like that.
He says you're a drunk. He says you go out.
Of course he would say that.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You people clearly have got the system down pat. You know what system you don't have down pat? Me.
Okay.
Me.
And later today,
How many trees did you cut down?
Well, I went straight across the fence. I'm not exactly sure.
Did you do that yourself, or did you have somebody else do it?
I did it.
I'd like to see what you did.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Douglas Allen claims the mother of his son, Lynn Goodell, owes for damages to his motorcycle caused by a man she brought home from a bar.
He says you go out and drink, and what he does is watch your son, and he's not worried about it because he lets you go out and drink, and he babysits for the child. That's what he says. I'm just telling you.
Right, I hear what he's saying.
That's what you say. So you went out to the Shuffleboard League on October 13th.
Correct.
And you were hanging out with some friends, and
I did have a few drinks that night, and I was playing, and I was conversing with an acquaintance of mine, and Doug started with his annoying, harassing phone calls and text messaging. The person became concerned for me and was asking me what the issue was and why I was becoming angry and annoyed, and I showed him some of the text messages that I received from Doug only on this one occasion, and he seemed slightly concerned for me and why I put up with it, and I explained, well, you know, Doug's kind of a hard person to get rid of. I've had restraining orders, I've had no abuse orders, I've had no contact orders, I've moved, I've changed my phone number, and this has been going on for a long time. Over the last year, yes, Doug...
Just stick with October 13th.
Okay. Well, this person became concerned for my well-being.
Remember, I read your answer, Ms.
Yes.
Goodell. Your answer doesn't talk about anybody being concerned for your well-being. Your answer talks about you being drunk and weren't able to drive home. Keep going.
I won't drive after I've had even 2 beers, so I let this person drive my car.
Person's name.
I only know his first name.
So you had somebody drive you home because you had been drinking.
Yes.
Let's cut to the chase. What happened when you got home?
It all happened very quickly. The man escorted me to the house. He asked if Doug was there. I said, obviously, he's here, yes. And he kind of helped himself into the home.
What do you mean he helped himself into the home? How do you help yourself into the home?
He just kind of walked in with me and made his way up to the bedroom. And
He made his way up to the bedroom?
he just, yes, I mean, obviously, Your Honor, he was drinking as well.
You knew where that was.
It's not that hard to find a room in a house.
Keep going.
So he went into the home, he went up to the stairs, and he went into the bedroom, and I was a few moments behind him. When I reached the top of the stairs, I realized that they were engaged in conversation. Doug looked at me, and I apologized, and the man said, "Why are you effing sorry?" and stormed past me, back down the stairs, out the door, and I went after him because I knew he had my keys. So I was like, what's going on? It all happened very quickly. I didn't know that this was going to happen. So when I went after him, I realized that the bike had been tipped over and he was getting into my car. I got into my car with him, and I said, what was that all about? And he just said, don't worry about it. I did it for you. And I was confused. So I had him drive back to his own vehicle. He got in his vehicle and he left. I sat in my car, absorbing the whole situation, and couldn't really come to an answer, so I sat there for several hours. Didn't want to go back home at that point, knowing that they would be...
Actually, did you see this man tip over your motorcycle?
I did not see him tip over the bike.
Who is this?
That's my witness. It's my friend Tim.
Witness to what?
He was there when she and her one-night stand came to the house drunk. So he witnessed everything I did.
If he were to testify, what would he testify to?
He'd testify to seeing them drunk, and
Just a second, does he live with you?
he was sleeping over that night. He slept over in the basement.
What was he sleeping over for?
Because I told him I was going to be there with my son that night, and I bought my son a Nintendo Wii, and he comes over and we play games with the kid.
And what time were you in bed?
I'd probably say 1 o'clock.
And who does this witness live with?
He lived with his girlfriend in Connecticut. He doesn't anymore.
When was the last time you worked full-time?
It's probably been about 3 or 4 years.
Do you get paid in check or cash?
By check. But it's only 10 hours a week right now.
I don't want to hear him.
Okay.
Don't you think that's a good idea?
You say so.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
You don't have any pictures of these trees before they were cut down.
No, ma'am, there was no need to take any pictures.
No, just answer my question.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Douglas Allen claims the mother of his son, Lynn Goodell, owes for damages to his motorcycle caused by a man she brought home from a bar.
You have any other proof, Mr. Allen, that this gentleman that your girlfriend brought home knocked over your bike?
No.
No. And where was your bike parked?
Right at the end of the driveway, about 15 feet from the door.
Outside.
Correct.
When was the last time you watched your son while Miss Goodell went out drinking?
That would be this Tuesday.
This past Tuesday.
Correct.
And did you stay over at her house?
I did not, no.
So you must have gone home very early in the morning if she went out drinking. What time did she get home?
I do not know. I didn't stay there.
Well, who babysat for your son when you left?
I did. I took him to my mother's.
And she picked him up in the morning?
Correct.
And was that by prearrangement that she was going out?
Yes.
Who watches him at your mother's?
I do.
What about your mother?
She works. She was sleeping.
And what about you? When do you work?
I took a couple days off.
Goodbye, Mr. Allen. Listen, you people clearly have got the system down pat. You know
Yeah.
what system you don't have down pat? Me.
Okay.
Me. She works. She gets paid in cash. Other than that, you get welfare for your child?
I do not.
You get any assistance for him?
I do.
What do you get for him?
Housing, food stamps.
Housing, food. That's assistance.
It is assistance, but it's
That's
not welfare.
What is it?
Welfare is cash from the state.
Who pays your rent?
I pay my rent. Well, the state pays half the rent.
Got it. Goodbye, Mr. Allen.
All right. Enjoy your day.
Excuse you, may step out.
No, I don't think she meant to cause problems. She was drunk in a blackout.
I was not in a blackout that night,
She was drinking and she must have blacked out. She brought the guy home.
and I don't drink to black out.
When they left, he pushed her over on the way out.
He's angry because, well,
A bike, a motorcycle.
he's caused a lot of turmoil in my life,
Can I leave now?
and, you know, this was just karma.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Glover versus Brookins, step forward.
Tanya Glover is suing her neighbor, Lasha Brookins, for cutting down 5 trees in her yard. Lasha claims the trees were attracting bees.
Miss Glover, the defendant is your neighbor who cut down trees that were on your property.
That's correct.
And you want her to either replace the trees that she cut down or build a privacy fence. And Ms. Brookings said that she cut down the trees because there were bees in the trees that were stinging her and making it unsafe for her to use her backyard. Okay. How long have you been neighbors, Ms. Brookings?
10 years or better, I do believe.
Could you keep your voice up?
10 years or better.
And how many trees did you cut down?
Well, I went straight across the fence. I'm not exactly sure, but I do have a picture of what I did.
It's 5 trees.
And did you cut them down at the bottom, or did you cut them down from on your property?
From on my property.
So you stood on a ladder?
Yes.
Did you do that yourself, or did you have somebody else do it?
I did it.
I'd like to see what you did.
I have pictures also, Your Honor,
I'd
show
like
you
to see pictures of
what
she
it looks
cut
like
down.
from my side.
I'd actually like to see what she cut down. Are these shrubs or trees?
These are trees. Those are evergreens, Christmas trees.
You don't have any pictures of these trees before they were cut down?
No, ma'am. There was no need to take any pictures.
No. Just answer my question. Because these trees look as if they were covered with vines. There were vines in the trees.
In the trees, between
I'm talking about vines in the trees. I see them here, the kind of vines that kill trees. So what I want to know is, were these trees green, or were they green and brown?
The trees were green.
Correct?
Not correct. They were green and brown.
Yeah, they look as if they were green and brown. Okay, very good.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Have you been cheated? Go to judgejudy.com or call 1-888-800-JUDY.
How many of these trees were cut down?
5.
You can't cut down her trees. You can't, listen to me. I don't know how many times I have to say this. You cannot cut down her trees. You can cut down branches that are leaning over on your property, but you can't cut down her trees. And if you do, you have to replace them.
Okay, but I don't see why I have to replace them when they were over and they were housing bees.
No, just a minute. You're allowed to cut down branches that are hanging over onto your property, but you can't go on her property, even the air of her property, in order to get to trees that aren't infringing on your property. You can't do that.
Well, yeah.
You can't do that without an order. Anyway, you can't do it. Trees are $50 a piece. It costs you another $50 to put them in. That's $100 times 4 or 5.
I have an estimate.
I don't need your estimate.
A proposal from...
I don't need an estimate. Times 5. There were 5 trees.
Yes, ma'am. There's 9-foot trees.
Most of them look as if they were dead anyway.
Well, no, they weren't, ma'am. They're 9-foot trees.
Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all. Thank you very much.
All right, Zach, excuse. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
That's case number 328 on the calendar in the matter of Brown versus Brown.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Judge parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat.
Mr. Brown, this is your daughter, and I'm sure you have some reason that you perceive as a good one for suing her. I'm not talking about the legitimacy of your claim. I'm talking about the fact that you are suing her at all. But this is what I perceive to be the situation. Tell me if I'm mistaken. Pursuant to your divorce decree, you are supposed to pay for your daughter's education if she is a full-time student.
Correct.
Is there a finite age when that stops?
As long as she is continuing to attend school, she is eligible to receive child support up until the age of 21.
21.
Yes.
And according to you, you were under the impression that your daughter was a student continuously after
Correct.
she graduated from high school. How old are you now?
I'm 20 years old.
In fact, your daughter was not attending school on a full-time basis after she graduated from high school, but took off, according to her, a couple of semesters because she had a child and she had to regroup. And you didn't know that she wasn't attending school. You continued to pay the child support, and you want her to return to you the money that you paid while she was not in school.
That's correct, Your Honor.
And you concede you were not in school.
I was not in school for 2 terms.
2 terms is how many months?
It was a total of 5 months.
And what was your child support each month?
$343.20 a month.
Did you tell your father you were not in school?
No, in fact, we haven't even spoken for about 5 years.
So you didn't tell him that you were not in school?
No.
So you tell me, Miss Brown, why you think you don't owe him this money?
My father hasn't been in my life for about 5 years.
This is not Dr. Phil. This is a court.
The only reason why I did not tell him is because the first term I took off was because I was due to have my child at the end of that term. I would miss finals, which means I would have to retake the classes. And in order for me not to have to pay for those classes twice, I decided to take the term off. And the second term I took off was because I was recouping from my cesarean section.
I understand your reasons.
Yes.
But, you know, we're dealing with a contract, so you have to pay him back for those 5 months. My question to you, Mr. Brown, is why would you sue her over this money?
When she originally graduated from high school in May of '09, she was eligible to be off, per the state requirements, up to 4 months for a summer break. The school that she eventually did start, the next term actually started in July. She did not start that term. I did not find out that she was not attending school until October of that year.
Just a second.
Okay.
Mr. Brown, your daughter says she took off 2 terms. She said it was 5 months. That's not my question. My question is, under the terms of your divorce decree, she owes you the money. I assume that you've been paying child support for a long time, right?
Correct, 10 years.
As well you should. She's your child.
Yes.
I don't understand why you're suing her.
We do not have any contact.
Did you think that this would help?
No, I didn't think this would help, but I thought that this might enable her to realize the responsibility of her actions.
Why suing her, do you believe, would suggest to a 20-year-old who has already made the mistake of having a baby when she's not financially or emotionally prepared to be a parent? I assume you live with your mother?
I do.
Now you're back in school, so I assume your mother takes care of your baby.
She does when I'm at school, yes.
Of course. So because of your irresponsibility, your mother is now taken on the responsibility again of being a parent. So your suing her is not going to make her more responsible.
No, it's not, Your Honor.
So then you just have to explain to me, Mr. Brown, something that I can understand as to why over, at most, $1,700 or $1,800, you're suing a child. How many children do you have?
I have 2 children.
How old are they?
One is 23 and one is 20.
And the 23-year-old is your brother?
Yes, my half-brother. We don't speak.
You don't speak?
I do not speak to any of his family.
The 23-year-old boy you see?
Occasionally.
What's occasionally, Mr. Brown?
He was in Germany in the military, and he's recently got back, but he has had problems with his marriage and his life.
Well, prior to his going to Germany, did you live with him?
Yes, I raised him.
And then he went to Germany, and then he came home, and now you have little contact.
That is correct.
So, Mr. Brown, you have 2 children with whom you have no contact. Did you ever say, maybe I better look inside myself?
Yes, Your Honor.
I mean, again, I'm not a therapist, but I have children. I actually speak to most of them on at least a weekly basis. Some of them I speak to twice a day, and they're twice her age. If I wasn't in contact with all my children, I don't think that I could justify it and say there's something wrong with my children as a parent. So we come back to the fact that you think your daughter may owe you money, but it sounds to me as if she's trying, despite some missteps, to put herself back on track. Why would you interfere with that?
Your Honor, when I found out that she wasn't going to school, I decided that I would go ahead and file the objection to stop the child support, which happened. I told my wife and myself that if she went back to school and left well enough alone and did not reinstate the child support, that I would call it a wash, that it would be even. But under the direction of whoever's influencing her life, she decided to go ahead and stick it to me again for more child support.
Mr. Brown, what kind of stick it to you again? She's 20 years old. She went back to school. That's why your children don't talk to you, sir. You have a new wife?
Yes.
That's why your children don't talk to you, because you refer to it as sticking it to you again. You're supposed to pay child support if you have children, sir.
I understand that, and I've been paying regularly and on time, no deadbeat dad, for 10 years.
Big deal! So what? You think that you deserve a medal for that, Mr. Brown?
No.
You don't deserve a medal for that. And if I had a child who made a misstep and became pregnant, took time off to have a baby, had a cesarean, says, all right, maybe I can turn my life around. I'm still only 20 years old and I'm going to go back to school and finish. As a parent, I would say, what can I do to help you?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She's the child. You're the parent. You're supposed to make it work, not the child. It gets very lonely as you get older, sir.
And later today,
Something's wrong with him. I don't know what it is. I don't know whether he takes prescription medication, non-prescription medication. I'm just telling you that there's something wrong with him.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. William Brown says his daughter, Tabitha Brown, owes for the return of child support she fraudulently collected.
Okay.
Your Honor.
You have to pay him because the law says you have to pay him.
This man demanded a DNA test after 20 years.
Listen to me. There's a reason why his children don't talk to him. But this is a court. A court gave your father the parameters of his child support obligation. Is he now paying you again?
Yes, he is, but he's in
Correct.
arrears.
Well, then the arrears will eventually be paid.
Your
You think
Honor.
that this is going to make it better?
Well, I was just going to tell you that they have credited him some of the money that he is allegedly.
Oh, well, that's important. How
Yes.
much have they credited him, Miss Brown?
They credited him in June and May a total of $234.89.
And then the other,
Stand up.
in July, they credited him $234.89 out of that month for July. But they also credited him another $171 in June.
Did you receive those credits, sir?
No, ma'am. They reapplied them when she reinstated the child support.
What do you mean they reapplied them?
They kept the money when she reinstated child support. They applied that to the current new child support. I have the 10-year summary right here with this year's rate.
I'd like to see it, please.
I have a page showing that in July, when they reinstated his child support, that his balance was actually $234 in a credit.
I got
so
it.
he didn't have to
I
pay
got
that
it.
money.
Miss Brown, I think that your father makes a terrible mistake to bring this lawsuit. I think that in the long term, he has 2 children and he has no communication with them for whatever reason. It's his fault. If you don't speak to a child, it's your fault, not the child's fault. And he has another child that evidently after he raised doesn't speak to him, which doesn't speak well of his parenting. But my hands are tied from a legal perspective, because from a legal perspective, if you were not in school on a full-time basis, you were not entitled to collect money from him. I don't think that you owe him what he would like, which is $2,700. I think that you owe him $1,400, and I'm giving you credit for what you say was deducted by child support. Mr. Brown, it gets very lonely as you get older, sir. How many wives have you had?
2 wives.
He's on his
Current-
3rd marriage.
You've had 2 ex-wives.
No. I remarried my first wife
When?
5 years ago, which is what stopped communication with my daughter. Not my choice.
Just a second. She's the child. You're the parent. You're supposed to make it work, not the child, Mr. Brown. And your daughter's got to give you $1,400. I think it's a big mistake if you take it. What I would say to her is, take that money. You have a boy or a girl?
I have a girl.
Take that money, put it in a bank account for my granddaughter. Let it grow until it's time for her to go away to college, and then tell her it's from her grandfather. She's responsible to give you the money. You're going to be a very lonely old man, Mr. Brown. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He's a deadbeat. He has nothing to do with me because of his wife.
It wasn't my choice to cut off communication with my daughter. It was her mother's.
I decided that if he was going to be with that woman, that he should not have contact with me because she treats me badly.
My daughter has been brainwashed by her mother since we got our divorce 10 years ago.
I haven't seen this man in 5 years.
I don't think I'll be a lonely old man.
I've tried to reconnect with him many times, and he has nothing to do with me.
There's nothing I can do about it.
Ex-boyfriend, Gregory Thomas, for a $1,000 loan and for the cost to store his Jaguar.
Mr. Thomas, what year Jaguar is parked in Miss Wright's garage?
Well, Your Honor, I had it towed there.
I asked you for a year. What year Jaguar is parked in her garage?
2001.
In whose name is the car? Look at me. In whose name is the car?
Donna's.
And who is that?
A friend of mine.
And what are you doing with Miss car?
I was buying it from them, Your Honor.
What do you mean you were buying it from him?
I'm buying it from them, and it tore up on me.
What does that mean? You were buying it from them and it tore up on you. I don't understand that. English, please.
It tore up on me, Your Honor.
Shh. English. You buy a car, you don't buy a car. I don't understand what you mean. You were buying a car.
I bought it, and it tore up on me.
All right, maybe I'm not. What does tore up mean? He doesn't know what it means.
Okay,
I thought it was a car term. I have no idea what tore up means.
Okay, it's not operating. The engine is not operating.
You mean it broke down?
Yes, it broke down.
Well, if you bought it from him, why don't you have it titled in your name? Did you pay him for it?
I haven't finished paying it for it, Your Honor.
Does Mr. know where the car is? It's not an answer. Thomas?
No.
Is he looking for you?
No, sir. No, ma'am.
Why not?
I've been talking with them about that. I was going to get it fixed and get it taken care of.
How long has it been in Miss Wright's garage?
A year and a half.
Something's wrong with him. I don't know what it is. I don't know whether he takes prescription medication, non-prescription medication. I'm not sure. I'm just telling you that there's something wrong with him.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
What was your relationship with Mr. Thomas at the time?
He actually was my lover.
So it was sort of easy for you to believe him?
Well, he's very convincing. He's very...
Not me.
Light Wright says ex-boyfriend Gregory Thomas owes for a loan and storage fees.
Now, let's take care of the car first.
Yes, ma'am.
When you get back home, call a towing company. Have them tow the car to a junkyard. Say this car is trespassing in my house. Okay. He's going to pay as part of a judgment against him for you to have it towed. If they won't tow it for you to a junkyard, have somebody put it out on the street. Police will come and take it if it's in the middle of the street. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Unload it. Get him out of your life.
Okay.
Don't give him a chance to come and get it because he's a little bit off. Okay. Got that so far?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so that takes care of the car business. And it will probably cost you $100 to have somebody come, hitch it up, tow it out of your garage, and put it on the street for them to take away. So that's what she's going to do. She's going to tow that, and she's going to do that tomorrow. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Perfect. Next, did Miss Wright give you $1,000?
Yes, ma'am.
When?
Oh, about the middle of March.
Of 2000 and?
2000 and now it would be 8.
When, Miss Wright, did you give him $1,000?
I gave it to him March 26, 2009.
In 9, yep.
It was a loan.
See, sometimes when you take medication, Mr. Thomas, your mind just races.
Okay, just...
And what did you give him the money for?
Mr. Thomas had asked me numerous times to loan him $1,000 because he had this great opportunity to have a government bid. He had $14,000. He only needed an additional $1,000 more to equal $15,000.
Sounds like one of those internet scams.
No, this was for a government bid.
No, I understand, but it sounds like an internet scam. Did you ever see a bank book where he had $14,000?
No.
Did you ever see a savings account? Did you ever see evidence that he had $14,000?
No. It's a scam. Well, supposedly it was this great opportunity for him, chance of a lifetime. He's a civil engineer.
And he had most of the money. All he needed was $1,000.
Yes.
And what was your relationship with Mr. Thomas at the time?
He actually was my lover.
So it was sort of easy for you to believe him?
Well, he's very convincing. He's very...
Not to me.
Well, he was very convincing, very romantic and very convincing.
Yeah, well.
He's very, very intellectually inclined.
The idea is if it looks too good and it feels too good, it usually smells bad someplace. You just have to get close enough to it.
Well, I think I had pretty bad judgment because I had been divorced for years. I was not dating for years.
Just a second. He was an exercise in bad judgment.
Yes, he was.
That's it.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Are you the victim of a scam? Go to judgejudy.com or call 1-888-800-JUDY.
Okay, so right now you're suing him for $1,800. You're suing him for storage fees for this ridiculous Jaguar that he's probably hiding from the rightful owner. You're going to have that towed, and then he'll have to go deal with it. You want your $1,000 back. He's a scam artist. You're going to get your $1,000 back plus $100 to get the car towed out of your garage.
Okay.
Did you have dinner with him last night?
No, I haven't seen him.
Perfect. Don't go near him.
Okay.
I mean, lunch, a drink, or anything. Just stay away from.
I felt as though he took advantage of me because he knew I
he
was
took advantage of you.
Because I'm
thinks
older
he's-
than him.
Yeah, whatever. Listen, you're going home today?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow? Okay, so you'll have to wait until tomorrow or the next day to get the car towed. And then he'll have to go chasing around to try to find it. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,100. That's all. Thank you very much. That's all.
Please excuse, you may step out.
you.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
Yeah, it's case number 378 on the calendar in the matter of Hayes versus Ginter. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ladies, sir, have a seat.
Mr. Hayes, it is your claim that the defendant has some property that belongs to you.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Ginter says she does not have any property that belongs to you. Property was purchased out of joint accounts when you were, in fact, living together. She has a counterclaim for harassment. I have a few questions for you. When did you and Ms. Ginter live together?
From 2005 until 2009.
And you split up in 2009. What month in 2009?
That would be November.
And when you split up in 2009, you left.
She left. She left to move back to her mother's.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
And what did you take with you?
I only took the things that he allowed me to take.
That was in November of 2009.
Correct.
What did you take?
I took my personal belongings, my clothing and things. I took my children's bedroom sets, and I took some miscellaneous household type kitchen utensils, things like that.
And you went home to your mother in November?
Correct.
Are you still there now?
No, I'm not.
When did you leave your mother's house?
In June of this year.
Did you sue Mr. Hayes in December of 2009?
No, I did not.
January 2010?
No, I did not.
February 2010?
No, I did not.
March, April, May, June, July?
No.
No. So when you say he allowed you to take only certain items, you never questioned the ownership of those items legally?
No, I
until later? Okay. We're setting the stage for certain things, Mr. Hayes. Do you understand?
Oh, yes.
Now, you got a job offer.
Yes.
And because you maintained reasonable relations with the defendant, according to you, you moved some of your furniture and property belongings into her home. In what month?
That would be June.
June 2010.
Yes.
The same month she left her mother's house.
Yes.
Correct?
Correct.
And you paid her $200 to store your property.
Yes.
That she acknowledges that you gave her $200 to store your property. Then you were going for a job someplace. That didn't work out.
Correct.
You came back, and she refuses to give you back your furniture, the same furniture that you had had from November of 2009 until June 2010.
Yes, plus a bedroom set that I had bought separately. She has that.
When did you purchase that?
I purchased that in April of this
So
year.
you moved that bedroom furniture.
Yes, I paid $600
Great.
for that.
I don't care. If I find that's your furniture, you're going to get it back.
Right.
Now, when he came back, did he make a demand for his furniture?
Yes, he did.
And when he came with the police, you told them that it was not his furniture, it had been purchased from a joint account.
That's correct.
And that's the same furniture that you had not sued him for or made any claim to legally. November, December, January, February, March, April, May.
But when he put it in my house, he gave it to me because he said he would not be needing it because he would be living in a man camp with this new job and that I could have it.
Well, Miss Ginther, you see, you're in a little bit of trouble with me right now because that's not what you say in your answer.
Okay.
And you give me a total different excuse in your answer as to why he shouldn't have his furniture back. Nowhere in your answer do you say he made me a gift.
No, I don't.
No, just a second. So, either you have to be telling the truth now, or you have to be telling the truth when you swore to your answer. You also have to be lying either now or lying when you swore to the answer.
I made several attempts to give him back this stuff.
Just a second. Shut up. Shh, just a second. You mean including the furniture?
Yes, I did.
Just a second. Well, now we have yet a third answer. So the third answer is now you made attempts to give him back the property.
Because I wanted him to quit posting things. My life was in danger.
Miss Ginther, listen to me very carefully. I haven't gotten to your counterclaim yet. But when you're not truthful with me with regard to his claim, and you give me so far 3 cockamamie answers with regard to the claim, then I'm going to question what you tell me in your counterclaim, which, quite frankly, I viewed as very serious. Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Yes, I do.
All right. Now, you keep saying, yes, I do, but you say, yes, I do, with the same vacant look in your eye. Either he made you a gift of the furniture, or you claimed, as you claimed to the police, that it was purchased from a joint account and therefore it's not his, or you tried to give it back to him and he wouldn't take it. Which one is it?
It is all 3. We bought it on a joint account. It was our furniture. He
gets back all the furniture.
Fine.
Is that... Listen to me.
That's what I wanted.
Listen to me. You're getting back all the furniture. Do you understand?
Yes, but she doesn't have
Listen to me.
the list.
Listen to me, sir. You're getting back all your furniture. I am now going to entertain her counterclaim for harassment, which, quite frankly, if any of it is true, it's very serious. And if I enter a monetary claim on her behalf for her counterclaim, I'm going to hold that money until she returns all your furniture. Do you understand?
Yes.
Do you understand?
I understand.
Stand perfectly. Now you can tell me about the harassment. Tell me about it. Show me the postings that he posted about you. Then I will ask him about it. I will ask him about his guilty plea to what, sir?
Disturbing the peace.
It was reduced.
Shh. Don't tell me it was reduced.
Okay.
I'd like to see in the postings how he harassed you on the internet.
Okay.
And then I'll take testimony about it.
Here are the top ones. The first one talks about how he puts my address, my phone number, my name, a description of me.
Just a second. I can read.
In Craigslist.
I can read.
And then the top one says, is somebody who responds.
Did you post this, sir? 45 to the forehead, make it look like a home invasion, one less thieving, R.I.P. Did you post that?
No, I don't.
Did you post that?
No, I didn't post anything like that. The things I posted on Craigslist were my property. I put it on Craigslist because she took it and I didn't want her to have it.
Just a second. I'm reading the email, sir. I'm trying to find out whether you did it when you were sober or drunk. Do you understand?
Yes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You know, and you're going to die. I hope you die in a horrible car crash.
Don't you know any other words?
I was pretty angry. I was drunk that night, too.
I have a feeling you're drunk a lot.
And later today.
So it's the babysitter's fault. It's ridiculous!
Would you like to see the pictures of it?
I don't care to see the pictures. It's a ridiculous counterclaim. I never heard anything so ridiculous.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Mark Hayes says ex-girlfriend Deanna Ginter refuses to return his belongings. Deanna claims Mark abandoned the property at her home. She is countersuing, claiming Mark has been harassing her over the internet.
I want you to show this to the plaintiff, please.
Second one, yes. First one, no. That second one was posted when I was in my hotel room after I called the police and went to get my stuff with the U-Haul, and she wouldn't give me anything back. I was on the phone with the police.
I don't care. And I think that you posted both of them. even if you posted only one of them. It's awful.
But her taking all my property isn't awful when I show up there and I have to call the police?
Listen to me very carefully, sir. She didn't take your property. You put your property in her house and you paid for storage. That's what courts are for. That's what I just said to the defendant a moment ago. I said you made no claim to that property November, December, January, February, March, April, May, until he put the property in your house and then came back for it, and then you didn't give it back to him. I said the reason I'm not even entertaining the claim that it's yours is because he left, he took the property, and you didn't sue him. That's what you do to someone who you believe has property that belongs to you and is retaining it. You sue them. You don't importune other people to call her, harass her, threaten her, or anything else on the internet. That's not what the internet is for. That's what courts are for. We understand each other?
Yes.
Perfect.
I also have some voicemail messages I'd like you to listen to.
I'd like to hear them. And by the way, just a second, hold on. I don't care about your list. This is what she's returning to you. Listen up very carefully. She's returning to you exactly what you say in this. She's returning to you TV, tools, and a bedroom set. That's what she's returning to you, because that's what you say she retained that belonged to you in this email, or whatever it is, posting.
Well, the police said that she doesn't have any of my tools. None of my stuff's there.
Listen to me very carefully, sir. That's what she's returning. I don't care if she returns a screwdriver to you. Do you understand? That's what you said in the email she retained, so I don't care about the laundry list of items that you were prepared to show me. Now I'll listen to it.
Hey, guess what? I'm back. So you just remember that. I'm back. So hopefully your Chevy back meet somebody that'll feel sorry for you and stuff and find out your bills. And too bad you didn't die, you know, that when you took all that Indian. You just should have died right there. Kids should have let you take them. World would be a better place. You're a moron. And you're a thief. You steal. That's what you do. You steal to get what you want. So you know what? You're just, and your mom's the same way. Both of you are just idiots. You don't care about anybody else but yourselves. So you know what? You. I hope you die.
Okay, and then just one moment, there's one more.
You know what? I hope you die, you piece of... You're the worst person I ever met. You are the worst mother person ever in the world. You know that? And you're gonna die. I hope you die in a horrible car crash.
Don't you know any other words? Don't you know any other words?
I was pretty angry. I was drunk that night, too.
I have a feeling you're drunk a lot. And it really doesn't make any difference because, you know, I mean, that's nasty.
Well,
just listen to me. That's nasty. This is something other than nasty. This is dangerous.
He
this
also
is
put
dangerous.
on there that I would be a sex slave. I received text messages, phone calls.
No, because this is dangerous.
Yes.
Posting it is dangerous. That's why I'm awarding you $4,000 on your counterclaim. That's what you're suing for. That's what I'm awarding you. You're going to get it as soon as he gets back his TV in good shape, his bedroom set in good shape, and his tools.
Okay.
Do you understand?
I understand.
Perfect. You have your TV, you have your bedroom set, you have your tools, and you have a big mouth. The big mouth is going to cost you $4 grand. Thank you. That's all.
Oh, he's excused. You may step out.
He thought we were going to get back together.
Yeah, it just disintegrated.
And he thought he could move in and everything would be happy.
She stole everything I had.
And he found out it wasn't going to be that way.
Every single thing I had, she stole.
Very, very hurtful. More frightened than hurtful, though.
She got my truck repossessed, then
Because I was scared for my life.
I kind of had a lot of animosity.
Hopefully he doesn't do it to anybody else.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter, Sandberg versus King. Step forward.
18-year-old nanny Felicia Sandberg is suing former client Cassie King for unpaid babysitting fees. Cassie claims Felicia's services were substandard.
Ms. Sandberg, it is your claim that Ms. King owes you babysitting services. that you performed and she didn't pay you for. Miss King's defense is not that you didn't work the hours, because I'd read your answer very carefully. Your defense is that you didn't think her services were adequate, and therefore you did not pay her.
Correct.
And you have a counterclaim because you say that while your two little children were in her care, they wrote with some marker on your couch and you had to have your sofa cleaned. You think she's responsible for paying for that?
I do.
All right, so let's get some things straight in my mind.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I don't give a rat's behind what you were looking for. You ate the hamburger. And if you eat the hamburger, you've got to pay for it.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Nanny Felicia Sandberg says former client Cassie King owes for unpaid babysitting fees. Cassie is countersuing for the cost to clean her love seat and sofa.
What kind of work do you do, Miss King?
I work in the fast food industry. Right now, I'm home with my children.
Who else works in your household?
My husband.
What kind of work does he do?
He works in the lumber industry.
Is this your husband?
This is my husband.
Could you stand up? I have some questions for you. How long have you been working for the same company, Mr. King?
4 years.
How much do you make an hour?
$10 an hour.
And how much do you make at your job, Mrs. King?
I make $8.75 an hour. I work part-time.
Okay. Now, initially, Miss Sandberg was hired to watch both your children, and you were paying her $6 an hour.
If I may.
And then...
when I hired her, it was $6 an hour, $3 per kid per hour.
Just a second. You were paying her $6 an hour to watch both of your children.
Correct.
Not $3 a kid.
Well, I said child.
Okay.
Sorry.
And then when one of the children was to school or whatever, you initially offered her $3 an hour because that's what you felt she should be paid for watching one child plus tidying up the house.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
In a daycare center, that is what it is. It's $3.75 an hour per child.
Okay, what it is in a daycare center, you bring your children there and they're there with other children.
And I don't have to come home to a mess either.
Listen to me, Miss King. I'm going to give it to you a one-shot deal.
Okay.
There is no issue of whether or not Miss Sandberg worked the hours for this $202 that she is requesting in pay before you let her go.
Correct.
The issue is whether you were satisfied with her service while she was performing those services, because you claim she slept on the couch, you claim that she came home one day and found the house untidy on more than one occasion. You claim that on one occasion you came home and found a chair in the middle of the kitchen, which suggested to you that your little 3-year-old was trying to get his own food.
Correct.
All of those things. So now I'm going to go back to what you do part-time. You work in the fast food industry.
Correct.
What do you do in the fast food industry?
I work as a waitress, if you will.
Okay. Let's say somebody comes in and orders a hamburger and fries, and you serve them.
Mm-hmm.
And they take their burger and fries, and they go to the table, and they eat it. And then you present them with a bill. And they say, we're not paying the bill. I didn't like the burger and fries. And you say to them, well, if you didn't like the burger, if there was something wrong with it, why didn't you bring it back before you finished it?
Correct.
So that I could make you another one.
That is
Or
our
if you
policy.
didn't like the fries, why did you eat them?
I did.
Why did you eat them? You understand where I'm going, Miss King?
I do, and I
If
did.
you found her services to be substandard, then you pay her for her service rendered the first time you're unhappy with her care of your 3-year-old, and you find somebody else.
I was looking for somebody else.
I don't give a rat's behind what you were looking for. You ate the hamburger. And if you eat the hamburger, you've got to pay for it.
Okay.
Now, you have a ridiculous counterclaim.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Have you been cheated? Go to judgejudy.com or call 1-888-800-JUDY.
Now, your counterclaim is that while under her care, one or both of your children used a magic marker or an indelible pen or something on a piece of your furniture, and it was under her watch, so she should pay for it.
Yes. Would you like to see the pictures of it?
I don't care to see the pictures. It's a ridiculous counterclaim. I never heard anything so ridiculous. It's almost like saying, well, while under her watch, she served my son a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and afterwards he took the plate and he dropped it on the floor. And if she had been watching him more carefully, he would not have dropped the plate on the floor, and therefore she owes me a new set of dishes because it was 1 out of 8 dishes. Now I only have 7, and I can't replace the dish, so it's the babysitter's fault. It's ridiculous! Counterclaims dismissed. $202. Judgment for the plaintiff.
Your Honor.
That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
Yeah, this is case number 354 on the calendar, the matter of Powell versus Scott.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have a seat.
Ms. Powell, it is your claim that the defendant vandalized your car by using some sort of a sharp instrument and writing on it. Ms. Scott says she didn't do it. So first you have to explain to me, because quite frankly, I didn't understand your relationship to each other.
I don't have any relationship to Sierra Scott. Sierra Scott did $12,637 worth of damage to my vehicle under the assumptions that I was having a relationship with her boyfriend at the time, Sorrel Shed.
Okay, let's go slow.
Okay.
Sorrel Shed is your boyfriend?
Yeah, him.
That's you?
Yes, ma'am.
So you believe that she thought that you were having a relationship with him?
Yes.
What made you think that?
Because we have her recorded on conversations saying, well, if Shuggy wanted to be with her, all he had to do was tell me and leave me out of it, and you guys don't have to lie about them having a relationship.
Could you stand still?
Yes.
Thank you. Go ahead.
And saying things like, I know Shuggy was with her.
So you have her voice on a recording?
Yes.
Talking about the fact that she thought you were having a relationship with him?
Yes.
Talking about motive. Did you make those calls?
No, she actually called me, accusing me of...
So she called you. Did you, in that conversation, accuse her of having any sort of relationship with your boyfriend?
In a way, yeah.
What do you mean, in a way?
I was basically just cussing her out and talking stuff to her because she called me.
Why were you cursing her?
Because she called me, accusing me of something that I didn't do.
What did she say to you when she called you?
Basically, she just was like, why did you do that to my car?
And what did you say to her?
I told her that I didn't do it.
And she said to you?
She's like, I know you did.
And what did you say to her?
I basically just told her I would have beat her up rather than messed up her car.
Okay, that's nice. And how did the boyfriend get into your conversation?
Well, if you do the whole story about what happened the night that her car got messed up, I guess, basically.
Why don't you tell me about that, Miss Scott?
Okay, so, well, he called me or whatever because we were supposed to go do some stuff because it was my birthday, and he told me that Dyrell, her witness, had a flat tire.
That you had a flat tire?
Yes, yeah, they're like really good friends or whatever.
Okay.
So right before we got off the phone, like I heard this girl in the background, so I'm like, who are you with? And he told me that it was Dyrell's cousin, Bianca, and he was like, if you don't believe me, I'll let you talk to her or whatever. So she got on the phone, and she's like, Shuggy's not doing anything he's not supposed to be doing or whatever.
Oh, so Miss Scott, you thought he was with another girl, so he said, let me put her on the phone. And she got on the phone and said to you, your boyfriend's not doing anything that he's not supposed to be doing. That's
Right.
what you said. And what happened next?
Well, after that, later on that night, I went to a club where they were all at.
So they were at a club and you went looking for him?
I didn't know she was there.
Did you know he was there?
I knew he was there.
Had your boyfriend invited you to come to the club that night? No, don't look over there. Look over here. Had your boyfriend invited you to come to the club that night?
No, he didn't invite me.
How did you know he was there?
We were text messaging each other the whole time.
So when he was at the club, he was telling you he was at the club? Stand up. Move over. When you got the first text message from her at the club, were you surprised?
No, ma'am, I wasn't.
Did she tell you she was coming to the club?
No, she didn't.
You told her the club that you were at?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
What time did she show up at the club?
Probably about...
Look at me.
Probably about 1:30, ma'am.
And was the plaintiff at the club with you?
Yes, ma'am, she was.
When your girlfriend got to the club, what were you doing?
I think I was by the DJ booth at that time.
And where was Miss Powell at the time?
I think downstairs.
What did your girlfriend say to you when she arrived at the club that night?
She just kind of glared at me, kind of.
Glared?
Yeah, kind of glanced.
Glared. And you've been together for how long?
About 9 months.
So you know what a glare looks like.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Seemed like a very, very nice young man. Anything else you want to tell me about that evening?
No, ma'am.
Great. Won't you have a seat? All right, so you showed up at the club. Your boyfriend says you showed up unannounced. He didn't know you were coming. You walked in and you glared at him. So I have a few questions. When you got to the club, had you ever seen Miss Powell before?
Never.
Did you see her at the club that night?
I did.
Tell me about how you saw her at the club that night.
Well, Sorrel, he was having a conversation with one of his friends by the DJ booth. Another one of his friends was downstairs in the bar area with her.
How do you know that?
Because he's a good friend of mine, too. I saw him. I didn't know that this was the person that I talked to on the phone.
I'm getting that.
Right.
I'm getting that. We're going to get to it.
Okay.
So you went looking for your boyfriend. You found your boyfriend. He was at the DJ booth. He was not with the plaintiff. He was not even on the same floor as the plaintiff.
Right.
But you found the plaintiff.
I didn't find her. I found his friend at the bar area with her.
Was that after or before you were glaring at your boyfriend?
He calls it a glare.
Was it after or before?
After.
After. So when you came to the club, you saw his friend first. Ah. See how easy this whole thing is becoming, Miss Scott? When did you realize it was the plaintiff as the same person that you talked to on the phone?
Okay.
You're not going to be able to make this up.
Yeah,
it's
I'm
going
not
to get
trying
better.
to. I'm just, it's a long story.
When did you realize that the person who was talking to your boyfriend's friend at the bar was the same person that you talked to on the phone?
When she dropped him off to me later that night.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He said they had gotten into like a little slight argument or whatever.
Did you say that to your friend?
No, ma'am, I didn't.
Did you get into a little slight argument?
No, ma'am, I didn't.
Stand. Move. Now we're going to play a little bit.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Bianca Powell says Sierra Scott vandalized her car after a night at the club. Sierra denies the charge.
Miss Scott, you went upstairs at the bar, gave the boyfriend a look. Did you leave by yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh is not an answer.
Yes.
Yes would be an
Yes.
answer.
Yes, ma'am, I did.
And where did you go when you left by yourself?
I went to the Waffle House and ate breakfast.
With whom?
By myself.
What time did you go to the Waffle House?
Probably about 3-ish, because I actually stopped at another club, like the Let Out, and then I went to the Waffle House.
So first you went to a club, and then you went, unfortunately, you couldn't find a friend to go with you, so you went alone to the Waffle House.
Well, not that I couldn't find anyone to go with, but I just decided to go by myself.
And from the Waffle House, where did you go?
He called me while I was eating, and he told me to meet him in 5 minutes at the Taco Bell up the street from where I was at.
Well, he first must have found out that you were eating at the Waffle House, so he must have called and said, where are you?
Yeah, he was texting me the whole time.
Now we're getting there. Now, when you got to the Taco Bell, who dropped him off?
Oh.
This lady.
And Bianca, yeah. There was
And it was
people in
by
the car.
that time you would recognize that she was the same person that you saw at the club.
I mean, I still wasn't for sure, but when he got in the car and started talking, then that's kind of how I figured it out.
Well, what did he say when he got in the car and started to talk?
Well, first of all, he told me to meet him at the Taco Bell, but he had them pull up at the Conoco. That was like right next door or whatever. So when I saw them pull up, I drove around, like I pulled up on them or whatever. And
You're getting all this? Yeah, it's easy. So easy. So easy. All right.
And
now, when did you find your car vandalized?
I found my car vandalized at 9:45 a.m. October 10th.
Can I see pictures of the car, please?
Yeah.
Stand up, sir. Now, you do understand that so far you and I are getting along famously, right?
Yes, ma'am.
You know why we're getting along famously?
Why is that, ma'am?
Because you appear to be respectful, and so far you're telling me an accurate story.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you and your girlfriend have a fight around Taco Bell?
No, ma'am, we didn't.
Tell me what you talked about.
Basically, I just told her who was in the car, and
When you told her who was in the car, what was her reaction?
she kind of like, are you serious? That's her? And then I was like, yeah. You know what I'm saying?
So she's asked you, are you serious about what?
I guess the girl that I let her talk to earlier.
So she was still involved in that conversation that you had earlier in the evening.
From earlier, yes, ma'am, because it was her birthday, and I was supposed to be with her on her birthday, but I kind of ditched her to go to the club that I was promoting, ma'am.
You ditched her to go to the club, and you were in a car with somebody else, another woman.
And a gentleman, Dyrell.
She doesn't care about that. And it was your girlfriend's birthday.
Yes, ma'am.
I assume she wasn't happy with you to begin with, that you weren't spending her birthday with her.
Yeah, kind of.
Did you buy her a present?
Well, a couple of
The
nights.
answer is, did you buy her a present?
I actually gave her some money.
How much money did you give her?
$200.
What'd you tell her to do with the $200?
Spend it wisely.
Now you can have a seat. Had your car ever been vandalized before?
No, ma'am.
What kind of car is it?
It is a 2006 CLS Mercedes-Benz.
Now, other than what would appear to me a very strong motive from someone with only a half a brain would have to do something to your car, do you have any independent proof that she did something to your car?
The independent proof that I have is she actually told my cousin on a phone conversation, she asked him if I had called the police because...
No, don't tell me about the conversation she had with your cousin. Stand up, please. Tell me your name.
Dara Halsey.
Did you have a conversation with the defendant, Mr. Halsey?
Yes, ma'am.
When?
Later on that day.
You mean after the vandalism was discovered?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me how that conversation came about.
At first, I called Shiggy, Sorrel Shed over there.
You called him?
Yeah.
What did you say to him?
I asked him, like, what happened to you and Sierra last night? Where did she go after you guys? Or what happened with you guys?
And what did he tell you?
Yeah, he said they had gotten to, like, a little slight argument or whatever. And he said that he left.
Did you say that to your friend, that you got into a little slight argument?
No, ma'am, I didn't.
Did you get into a little slight argument?
No, ma'am, I didn't.
Stand. Move. Oh. Now we're going to play a little bit. You met up with your girlfriend at Taco Bell after you were at a club. It was her birthday. Where did you go?
We went to the house.
Whose house?
Her mom's.
Was her mother home?
Yes, ma'am, she was.
Was she awake?
Yes, ma'am.
What time of the morning was this?
Probably about 3:25.
And what was her mother doing awake in the morning? What
Getting the baby together.
What baby?
Sierra's.
Who's the father of that baby?
Anthony.
Anthony.
How old is her baby?
About to be 2.
So her mother is up with the baby at 3 o'clock in the morning while she's out playing with you at Taco Bell.
Yes, ma'am.
You think that that's appropriate?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
If I had been the judge hearing that tape, your daughter and your mother would be visiting you for about 30 days.
Well, there was no evidence.
30 days they would be visiting you.
As the result of a misunderstanding over a man, Sierra insists she's not the culprit.
Now, what does she do for a living, this one?
She's a nurse.
Who does she minister to?
Her daughter.
Does she get a paycheck
Yes, ma'am, she does.
for taking care of her daughter?
My daughter was born premature, so I actually am, like, working for her, too, as a CNA.
You're working for your daughter?
Yeah, she was born 25 weeks premature, so
And?
she has a lot of developmental issues, basically.
Well, that's not working. That's being a parent.
Well, yeah, that is being a parent, but also it's like a job because I can't really work, so I'm a CNA for my daughter.
Then what are you doing out 3 o'clock in the morning? What are you doing out playing around, going from club to club, Waffle House, Taco Bell, while your mother's up 3 o'clock in the morning?
Well, my mom agreed to watch the baby. She said I didn't have to come and get her that night, but usually when we go out, we just pick her up because we don't want to go get her in the morning.
So you went to get her with the boyfriend?
Mm-hmm.
And where did you take her?
Home.
What did you do when you went home? Is not an answer.
You're right, ma'am. Basically, we talked a little bit, and she...
Talked a little bit about what?
About me ditching her on her birthday. And I said,
Was she happy about that?
Well, I calmed her down after a while, but at first she
So
was
the
mad.
answer is you had a bit of an argument.
Yes, ma'am.
Now you can sit. See, we got along just fine before you were playing with me.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, after you spoke to your friend and asked him what happened when he and Mother of the Year over here picked up a 2-year-old child that requires full-time medical care and took her out 3 o'clock in the morning.
I didn't say full-time.
Don't interrupt me. You spoke to her.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you call her?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Go ahead.
And I asked her, did she have anything to do messing up my cousin's car? She said no. Then I was like, you wrote your name on the car. She put Mrs. Shed, which is Sorrel Shed's last name. That's what gave me the impression that she did it in the first place. She said she didn't have nothing to do with it at first. She kept saying, accusing my friend Sorrel Shed and my cousin messing around and stuff like that. I was like, they have nothing to do with each other.
Go ahead.
After a long conversation, and I just kept talking to her or not, she said she had somebody vandalize the car. She had nothing to do with it, but she did have somebody follow us from where I dropped Shuggy off with her. She had somebody follow us home and do the damage to my cousin's car.
And we also have that on recording.
I'd like to hear it.
Okay.
I can't understand a word of that. But...
So you said you had somebody follow us? From the Taco Bell to wherever else y'all wait, to wherever she stays at. To Beyonce's house.
That's it.
That wasn't me.
That wasn't you?
No.
Are you kidding me? Are you for real? That wasn't you?
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Go to judgejudy.com or call 1-888-800-JUDY.
I want to tell you something. I would have granted the full amount of the jurisdiction of the court, but your insurance company paid a good deal of it. I don't understand why she wasn't arrested for felony vandalism, why she wasn't incarcerated for felony vandalism. If I had been the judge hearing that tape and taking the testimony that I just had, your daughter and your mother would be visiting you for about 30 days.
Well, there was no evidence.
30 days they would be visiting you.
There was no evidence.
Listen to me very carefully.
She played those tapes.
Hey, big mouth. There is evidence. There may have not been evidence to prove you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, because there may have been some unreasonable people that may say, well, maybe there's a chance somebody else got annoyed with her during the course of the same evening. So you may not have been found guilty in a criminal proceeding. There is more than sufficient evidence to find you guilty in this civil proceeding.
Just because I'm making tests or on the phone.
How old are you?
22.
So you're 22 years old. You have a child who must have some serious physical, mental, or emotional issues if that child requires full-time care.
I didn't say serious.
Full-time care
and I didn't
from
say
you.
full-time either.
Full-time care from you so that you act as her nurse.
That's being a parent,
You act
right?
as her nurse.
But that's being
and
a
that's
parent,
what you
right?
get paid for,
But that's
acting
being
as
a
her
parent,
nurse.
right?
So you already have your hands full. Why don't you do something productive with your life?
I didn't do it.
Why don't you do something productive with your life, other than making children? Judging for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,100. That's all. Step out.
Step out. Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
Now it's case number 389 on the calendar in the matter of Eatman versus Courtier.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Ms. Eadman, you and the defendant are neighbors. It is your claim that her dog bit your daughter.
Yes.
And while you were trying to get the dog off of your daughter, you twisted your ankle and had some medical bills.
Yes, that's
You
correct.
want the defendant to be responsible for the injury to your daughter and your medical bills for your twisted ankle.
That's correct.
The defendant says that the dog bit your daughter and it was your daughter's fault. and she is counterclaiming for some nonsense with regard to having to get rid of the dog because of your complaint. Now, how long have you been neighbors, Miss Coutier?
A little over a year.
Okay. Who moved in first?
I did.
How long have you been there?
I've been there for 3 years.
Okay. Now, you had a dog. What kind of a dog did you have?
A pit bull.
How long had you had the dog?
Since he was 3 months old.
Now, the dog was clearly, based upon your answer, a dog that was trained to protect the house.
He was just a family pet.
Well, did you have a sign?
Yes, I have a sign.
Does the sign say I can make it to the fence in 2.8 seconds? Can you?
Yes.
Right. Can I see the sign? Now, you put up that sign in order to warn people that you had a pit bull, which was a dog trained to protect your family. I mean, people who have a Chihuahua usually don't have that kind of sign. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay. It's like saying, I have a security system here. If you burglarize my house, the chances are you're going to get caught. So you're trying to discourage people from coming into the house because you have a security system. Clearly, this dog and this sign was meant to suggest to people that you have your own security system.
Correct.
Right. Now, when did this attack occur on your daughter?
October 22nd.
Prior to October 22nd, 2010, had you ever received a complaint about your dog before?
No.
How old was your dog?
2.
Now, there is no question that the plaintiff's daughter was bitten by your dog, correct?
Correct.
And there's no question that happened on October 22nd, correct?
Correct.
Was the plaintiff's daughter in your house?
They were playing at the front door.
Was the plaintiff's daughter in your house?
Yes. She had come into the home.
That's not what I asked you. Was the plaintiff's daughter in your house?
Yes.
Where was she when she was bitten?
I don't know. I stepped out of the room to use the restroom.
Stepped out of what room?
The living room. And at that time,
Stand
she was
up
not
here.
in there.
Come up here. Tell me your first name.
Bailey.
Bailey. How old are you, Bailey?
10.
You understand that you're in court now?
Yes.
You understand that when you were in court, no matter what you told your mother, you're responsible to tell me exactly what you remember about October 22nd. You do understand that?
Yes.
And you do understand that there are consequences if you don't tell me the truth?
Yes.
Okay. I want you to tell me exactly what happened on October 22nd.
We were playing on our scooters, and then she got off of the scooter, and then she was going towards the door.
Going towards what door?
My front door.
She was going towards the door. Had she said anything when you got off the scooters?
No.
How far from your door was she? Point to something in the room.
Right here.
So from where we are, she was this far away from the door.
Yes.
And what happened?
Then we started playing at the door.
So then you joined her at the door.
Yes.
So you got off your scooter and you went up to where she was at the door.
Yes.
Is there a porch?
No.
Or just a door?
The door.
So you were both around this far away from the door, from where I am to where you are?
Yes.
And then what happened, Bailey?
Then her elbow, because we have like a handle door, her elbow hit it and she fell back.
She fell back where?
Into the house. She leaned back.
Her elbow hit the door.
It hit the knob.
It hit the knob and she fell back.
Yes.
And when she fell back, what happened?
The dog ran to her and just started biting on her ears.
So I assume the door wasn't locked.
No, because...
Was it a screen door or a regular door?
Regular door.
So it's a regular wooden door?
Yes.
And her hand hit the latch and she fell back inside?
Yes.
Were you pushing around each other?
Yes.
So she was pushing you?
No.
Were you pushing her?
Yes.
Good. Now you can sit down. Tell me your name.
Jayana.
You know where you are. You know you're in court. You know that you have to tell me the truth and that there are consequences to not telling me the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember October 22nd?
Yes.
You're 8 years old?
Yes.
And Bailey is your friend?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to tell me what happened on October 22nd?
I was playing with Bailey. Then he went inside to tell his mom something, and I had my back against the door. Then he opened the door. Then he moved. Then I fell, and I thought it was his mom at the door. Then I just felt bite marks.
Do you know what Bailey went to tell his mother?
No.
But he actually went inside?
Mm-hmm.
Did he close the door behind him?
Yes.
Bailey, did you go inside to tell your mother something?
No.
You did not?
No.
Okay. Bailey says that he pushed you against the door when you were playing and your hand hit the door. Did that happen?
No.
It did not. Where did the dog bite you?
On my ear and right here and under my neck.
Did you have any stitches?
Yes.
Do you remember how many you had?
6.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I limped into the hospital. I got her worked on. They asked me did I want to check myself in. I said not at this time because I wanted to
Show
get
me
her
where
home.
that says that anywhere here.
And later today,
What did I do for her? I mean, we hung out, spent time together.
And that valuable commodity you would deem to be worth how much?
At least $1,000, I guess. I mean, that's...
I guess not.
Rashida Eatman says neighbor Naylan Couturier's pit bull attacked her daughter, causing her to sprain her ankle. Naylan is countersuing for the cost and distress of putting the dog down.
Now, either way, you're responsible for your dog's bite. Either your son was playing and pushed her into the door, which is what he says, if he's telling the truth, or what the plaintiff's daughter says is that your son went inside to tell you something and he must have left the door unlatched or he didn't close it all the way and she fell into the door because it was not locked. Either way, you're responsible because you have a dog that is... You can make it to the fence in 2.8 seconds. Can you? So your house wasn't safeguarded. Your house wasn't safeguarded from this dog. So you're responsible for her injuries. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Great. Now, this twisted ankle that you had, because I understand that you came over and you managed to get the dog off, and then you don't know how you twisted your ankle, but your ankle was twisted. It's the only thing I have a problem with, actually.
Okay.
So I'd like to see medical proof of your ankle injury. Well, the doctor didn't find any evidence of a problem. It's the same hospital that you took your daughter to earlier that day. Then you came back. When you came back, you said, my ankle hurts. Doctor saw no evidence of swelling, no evidence of bruising. There was an x-ray taken. There was no evidence of anything, except you complained of tenderness, and that's it.
If you read it on the other report, the other hospital bill, I did have swelling when I went in. Because when we took her
That was November 2nd.
I went back November 2nd because my ankle had swelled up.
Just a second. From October 22nd, it didn't swell up until November 2nd?
I had swelling that night, Your Honor.
Well, I'm telling you, the hospital didn't see any swelling 5-6 hours after the incident because you'd taken your daughter in.
No, I took my daughter in to get her worked out. As I got out the ambulance, that's when I noticed that my ankle was swelling, was hurting. I limped into the hospital, okay? I got her worked on. They asked me, did I want to check myself in? I said, not at this time, because I wanted to get her home.
Show me where that says that anywhere here.
It doesn't say that in there.
Doesn't say it anywhere there. Yeah. I think your daughter is entitled to compensation for being bitten by the plaintiff's dog. I think that she's entitled to not only having her medical bills paid, but I think that the defendant is responsible for her pain and suffering, for the fear that she had at the time she was bitten, because the defendant did not adequately ensure that the dog was not in a position to hurt a child, which it did. And you're responsible. That's period, the end of the story. However, I'm not going to expand that to include your ankle.
Okay.
Great. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500. Your cross-complaint, Ms. Couturier, is dismissed because your cross-complaint says that your family suffered emotional distress because you were forced to get rid of the dog because of her complaint.
She was threatening my dog, threatening me that she would kill him.
Very good thing that you got rid of the dog.
It was my decision.
It was your decision. Well, then what are you coming here for? Then what do you want?
Because I got rid of him because I was scared that she would actually do something.
I'm just telling you, you said it was your decision. It was your decision. What does that have to do with the court? It was a very good decision that you made to get rid of the dog. The dog bit your neighbor. Your neighbor was not taunting the dog. Your neighbor was not attacking the dog. The child is 8 years old, not doing anything to the dog that would in any way give cause to say, well, you know, this dog was being tormented, teased. Nothing like that happened. So it was a very good idea for you to get rid of the dog, so your counterclaim's dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It was crazy. The dog was all over my daughter.
Warn the kids day in and day out.
Oh, I panicked. I blacked out in the process of it.
Don't play right in front of the door.
So I had to do what I had to do.
Don't play in front of the windows.
You know what? Because the dog has attacked her son.
It irritates the dog.
So I shouldn't really expect her to take responsibility for my child.
I got rid of him.
If she wouldn't take it for her own son, she wouldn't take it for my child. But justice was served.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter, Raysbrook versus Powell. Step forward.
Julie Raysbrook is suing her ex-boyfriend, Stephen Powell, for an unpaid loan to buy a car. Stephen claims Julie offered to give him the money.
Mr. Powell, when did you accept the $1,000 that the plaintiff gave you towards the purchase of a car?
It was right around August of last year.
Is that right?
No, Your Honor, it was in October.
Does that sound right, Mr. Powell?
Yeah, she's right. That's right.
And at that time, you were in a relationship with her, is that right?
We were seeing each other, yes, ma'am.
You have children?
Yes, ma'am.
How many?
4.
Where do they live?
2 with one mom and 2 with my ex-wife that we do joint custody with.
What town do you live in?
Marysville, Washington.
And in what town do your children live?
2 are in Everett and 2 are in Stanwood. Relatively close.
And I would assume that there is not a mass transit system where you live.
No, ma'am.
So the way to get to see your children is by what?
Driving.
Now, in October of 2010, did you have a car?
I did for a little bit. I was borrowing it from a friend, and then my friend needed the car back, and so then that's when she...
Just a second. Just answer my question.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Just that slim underside, you know. Everybody is so savvy to survive without working. It's just mind-boggling.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Julie Raysbrook says ex-boyfriend Stephen Powell owes for an unpaid car loan.
So the answer is, in the beginning of October 2010, you did not have a car.
No, Your Honor.
And that would mean that you could not see your children.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, after you took this money from the plaintiff for the car in October of 2010, how much longer did you continue to see her?
Maybe a month.
Now, when you stopped seeing her after these 4 weeks, did you return the money to her?
No, there was never...
Just a second.
No.
Answer, Michael. The answer is no. Did you return the car to her?
No.
What did you do for her for the 4 weeks that you spent together after she had given you the $1,000?
What did I do for her?
Yeah.
I mean, we hung out, spent time together.
Yes. And that valuable commodity you would deem to be worth how much?
At least $1,000, I guess. I mean, that's what...
I guess not. How old are you, Mr. Powell?
31.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a carpenter.
You work for yourself?
No, ma'am.
Who do you work for?
I was in the union, and I just got laid off. Well, I've been laid off for a little while.
For how long?
About a year and a half, because I had a shoulder surgery.
So you haven't worked in a year and a half. How do you support yourself?
I was getting what they call time loss.
Explain that to me. All these new programs are somewhat of a mystery to me.
Instead of going through L&I, it's something that my company...
O&I?
L&I.
What is that?
L&I, like when you're not working, or if you get hurt on the job, L&I covers wages. And instead of my company going through that, they didn't want their insurance to go higher, so they do a KOS, keep-on salary, so they were paying my regular salary while I was going through my physical therapy and all that stuff.
And when did your physical therapy end?
Probably like 5 months ago.
So how have you been supporting yourself for the last 5 months?
I haven't been.
Well, you're eating.
Food stamps.
So you get food stamps?
Yes, Your Honor.
And who do you live with?
Just by myself.
How do you pay your rent?
I've been having friends help me.
Friends?
Friends.
Have a new girlfriend?
No, Your Honor.
How do your friends help you?
Loan me money.
Is he one of your friends?
Yes, Your Honor.
Good. Stand. Last name?
Burroughs.
Who do you work for, Mr. Burroughs?
I work for a friend right now doing a
work for a friend doing what?
Gutter company. I install gutters.
You get paid in check or cash?
In cash.
Sit down, Mr. Burrows. It's just that slim underside, you know. That, you know, it's not all the way what I'm used to understanding from my family court days, but it's all these new programs and things that everybody is so savvy at putting together to survive without working and without paying taxes, and it's just mind-boggling to me. Now, Miss Raysbrook, what kind of work did you do?
I was in the Navy.
How long were you in the Navy?
6 years.
Decided you had enough Navy?
I have 3 young children, and that was enough for me to handle.
What do you do now?
I go to school full-time, and I run a small nonprofit organization.
Who do you live with?
Myself and my 3 children.
And who supports you?
I support myself.
From what?
GI Bill, student loans.
The GI Bill pays for?
Tuition and living expenses.
How much do you get from the GI Bill?
$13.21 a month.
What else?
Unemployment in the state of Washington has a commissioner-approved training program, and I'm putting myself with their assistance through nursing school. So I continue to receive unemployment benefits while I'm attending school full-time.
And how much do you receive from unemployment?
$2,100 a month.
That's about $3,500 a month. Is that the total extent of what money you have?
Child support from my ex-husband is $500
a month.
Correct.
And is he current in his child support?
He is not.
He is not.
He is not. He's 2 months behind.
How much after you gave Mr. Powell this $1,000 did he leave?
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Go to JudgeJudy.com or call 1-888-800-JUDY.
We remained friends for a while. He stated that when I loaned him the money, we were in a relationship, and that's not true. We had ended our dating relationship at least a month prior and remained friends, had lunch occasionally, spoke, Facebook, text messaging. And in January, which was when he was supposed to start paying me back, I hadn't received a payment, contacted him in February, and he informed me that he had had an on-the-job injury and told me, you know, I don't have the money to pay you right now. I have my child support obligations for my children, and I've got other issues that have come up, but I'm expecting a settlement that should be paid to me sometime late in the summer, and at that point I can pay you in full. I won't even have to do the monthly payments that we agreed to. I can just give you your $1,000 and we can just, you know, be settled and walk away. So in June, I contacted him. He made his first payment to me in June.
And is that the only payment he made?
It is, Your Honor.
He pay you in check or cash?
Cash.
Did you meet for him to give you the cash?
At his house, yes.
You went to his house?
Correct.
It wasn't a payment. It wasn't a payment.
What was it?
It was more or less to get her off my back.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $900. Thank you very much.
Parties are excused and they step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
Yeah, it's case number 446 on the calendar, the matter of Jones versus Clark.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
How old are you, Miss Jones?
How old am I? 19.
And you?
18.
And what do you do to keep yourself busy?
I go to Youngstown State University, and I work at Subway.
And you?
I was formerly working at Walmart. Right now, I'm just looking for a place to stay down in Atlanta, Georgia.
So you're not doing anything?
Not right now.
How many credits do you take, Miss Jones?
14.
Getting reasonable grades?
Yes.
Great. Okay. You used to be friends, now you don't like each other anymore. I don't know why you just can't separate and not like each other, but I guess that's just not the way things are done. So it is your claim that the defendant harasses you and vandalized your car after an incident. Ms. Clark says that actually you harass her. She doesn't have a counterclaim and certainly denies vandalizing your car. You were friends in high school?
Yes.
And I read in your papers that sometime in September of last year, you engaged in a fist fight. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
That's smart. And where did the fist fight take place?
My boyfriend's house.
Had you invited her there for a fist fight? You mean she showed up?
Somebody else invited her, but I didn't invite her.
And when you got there, there was an altercation, and was there a police report?
No.
Was anybody injured?
No.
No, not really.
23-year-old Jessica Whetstone is suing her former friend 27-year-old Ryan Volstead for a loan to buy car speakers and gas money.
Bird, we've been involved in the justice system for a very long time, and you know, it's never too late to learn new things. The law is always changing. Today you're going to hear about a new defense, something that I had never heard of, but Mr. Volstead is going to tell us about his new defense to a debt. He and Miss Whetstone met online. They dated once. They became friends, according to her. And shortly thereafter, Mr. Volstead borrowed some money. 2 separate occasions, the beginning of July of 2005. The first was a small loan of $40 he needed.
Gas money.
Gas money. And then the next day, which would have been, according to you, July 8th, he needed some more money for what?
To pay for his Bronco to keep it from getting repoed.
Repossessed.
Repossessed.
And how much did he need the next day?
He needed $350 for the speakers. So I told him that I would buy the speakers, hold them for him until he got the money, and then when he got the money, I would give him back the speakers.
So how much money did you give him?
At that time, for the speakers was $350.
Did you ever get the speakers?
No.
So he didn't give you the speakers and you gave him the money?
Right.
Okay. Why didn't you get the speakers?
He told me that he would have to undo the wiring for the speakers, and he needed the money right away before the title loan company closed.
So he didn't give you the speakers and you gave him the money?
Right.
And you were really supposed to hold the speakers as collateral?
Right.
What happened to your car, Mr. Volstead?
I borrowed the money from Jessica.
Just a second. I asked you what happened to your car.
I was able to keep it.
You did? You still have it?
Yes, I do.
Oh, I thought Miss Whetstone said it was repossessed. The next day, he told me his Bronco was repossessed anyway. Did you tell her that your car was repossessed anyway?
Yes, I had paid my loan, and they sent the repo company out after it anyway when they shouldn't have. Possessed when it wasn't supposed to be.
So they gave it back to you?
They gave it back to me.
With her speakers?
Yes.
Why didn't you pay her the $390? Now we're coming to the defense, which I find interesting.
Well, we had agreed that I asked her, give me a week, I'll be able to get my speakers unwired so I don't have live wires.
We're talking July, sir.
And with my work schedule, it was getting me home very late in the evening. And there was a short point of time where I had no conversation or contact with Jessica. Finally, we had talked, and she said she didn't want the speakers if I was not going to run and not pay her. And she says, as long as you're going to pay me back, then we're not going to have a problem. And I agreed.
When did she tell you that? In what month?
She told me that probably 2 or 3 weeks after she gave me
In July?
Yes.
So what happened in August, sir?
In the middle of August, I was starting my new job, and I was never home. I had no time during the day for anything. I was driving 70 miles one way to work and back. We had talked a couple of times.
Why haven't you paid her back?
Well,
we're well past July of 2005. Give me your defense.
The defense is there was no time given when I was supposed to have her paid back.
That's not what you tell me your defense was in your answer, sir. Your defense in your answer was she bothered me. And therefore, I don't feel as if I have to pay her back anymore because she stalked me and bothered me.
When there's points of time that she called 15 times in one day.
Why didn't you pay her back?
I didn't have it at the time.
You just told me you were working and driving 70 miles to and from work. You were so busy working, you couldn't even call her.
I had another prior engagement that I had to take care of and that she was aware of.
What kind of other prior engagement?
I was trying to get another vehicle back in my possession that I had a time frame for.
Listen, hold on to your money, right? Hold on to your money. Mr. Volstead, you have a counterclaim. Your counterclaim, I'm going to give you exactly 30 seconds to tell me about what your counterclaim is, unless you want to say, Judge, I don't want to go forward with this harassment counterclaim.
Upon a week after...
So you want 30 seconds?
Yes,
then you
please.
better talk faster.
After she told me there was a certain date she wanted the money or she was going to take me to court, I told her I didn't have it right then to give me another 2 weeks. She said, if you don't have it by this date, don't come by my house, don't send any correspondence to my house, talk to my family or friends, or I'll nail you for harassment. At that point in time, I figured, okay, well, if that's what it's going to cost for the friendship, be it.
What's your lawsuit about?
Within a week after that conversation, I had 4 tires on my vehicle with all the air out of them. I had to have the tire company come out and blow
So
the
what?
air.
What does that have to do with her?
I figured that was one of her last
Who cares what
marks
you
for
figured?
revenge.
Who cares what you figured? Do you have any proof of that?
No, I do not.
So what are you bothering me for? This is a court. What else?
I got fed up with her trying to harass me every single day, calling me a liar, almost getting me evicted out of my apartment after I already made amends with my landlord, with my neighbors telling me that I have someone beating on my door late at night until they woke up.
Grow up. Grow up. Accept responsibility for what you're supposed to take care of. You borrowed this money, you said you would pay it back, and you should have done it. Clear?
Yes.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $390. Your counterclaim. Nonsense is dismissed.
Deborah Pittman Page is suing her nephew, 21-year-old Chad Pittman, for a loan to get his car insured and for the cost to get the vehicle out of impound.
Miss Page, did you ever hear the saying, no good deed goes unpunished?
Yes, ma'am, I have.
This is your nephew?
Yes, it is.
According to your complaint, he fell on some hard times.
Correct.
And you offered to advance him the money to pay his car insurance.
Correct.
And he was supposed to pay you back.
Yes, ma'am.
When did you pay his insurance?
April 11th of 2006.
And how was he supposed to make the payments to you?
He was just starting a new job, and so he thought he could go ahead and pay me then. So he was living at home with his father and his stepmom.
Is that your brother?
Yes. So they had said that he had to have a registered and insured vehicle in order to move back in home. And so that's why we did this. And I paid the insurance company. I wrote a check for $1,432, and then he gave me $432 that he had. That way he was able to get registered and insured, and he moved back in.
And how many payments did he make?
Well, he paid the $432 initially, and then he paid another $100, and then about 6 months later he paid me $60.
Okay, young man, now tell me what happened.
What happened was...
Don't listen. Don't look down.
What happened was on the 12th of April, she did write a check. I did give her the $480.
We're past that. She
Okay.
wrote the check. You gave her $432, leaving a $1,000 balance. You paid her another $160 over a period of time.
No.
You didn't pay her anything.
I gave her more than $160.
Okay, how much did you give her, sir?
I brought the payment down to $840, which means I paid her...
160.
160, okay. So I was wrong. I got arrested.
Look here. You got...
I got arrested.
When?
I got arrested on November 7th.
So between April 12th and November 7th, you gave her a total of $160.
Correct.
Why
But
is
in between times, I didn't have a job. I told her that I'll give you the money, but I also have to support myself at the same time. So I wasn't always able to give her as much as she had expected.
Well, how about anything?
Oh, I would give her something.
No, you didn't. You gave her $160. April, May, June, July, August, September, October, in 7 months.
In
7 months, if you gave her, let's say, $5 a week, which, look at me, mister, look at me. It means going one less time to McDonald's, sir. It means getting one less Frosty Freeze. Mr. Pittman, on the 7th of November, you got arrested for what and where?
I got arrested in Amesbury, Massachusetts for possession of a firearm, a Class D substance.
What was the substance?
Weed.
Marijuana?
Yes. With the FID numbers filed off, and...
The FID numbers filed off the marijuana or the firearm?
No, the firearm. And then I was brought into Middleton.
You were stopped in your car?
Yeah.
The car that your aunt had insured?
Yes. And then it was impounded.
It was?
Oh, yeah, it was. It got impounded. She went to the...
How did she find out that your car was impounded?
Because my dad had found out that I was arrested. She found out. She wanted the car to take out, get the license plates off, turn them in, collect the past due, not the past due, but the amount for
balance of the
cancellation.
insurance.
Exactly.
So that she would at least have some money back.
Right. But she also wanted me to pay the $210. She also has my...
$210 for what?
for getting the car out of the impound.
Didn't you want the car anymore?
It didn't matter to me either way. I was going to be in Middleton for more than a year, so.
Listen to me. So at that point, it didn't matter to you that the car was an impound. What kind of car is this?
96 Ford Contour.
So you didn't care whether the car was an impound. As far as you were concerned, they could have turned it into a toaster.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
But didn't you understand, sir, that by letting the car remain there, your aunt was stuck with this $840 payment that you owed her?
I had full intention on paying her, but I couldn't justify why am I paying her. She has my car, she has my title, threatened to forge my signature on my title, said that she could get $1,300 at a junkyard for it, tried signing it. She didn't seem to want either, so I just was like, well, make up your mind.
Can you get any money for his car?
It turns out that in Massachusetts you have to have an inspection sticker, and the car had already been rejected, so it had a rejection sticker on there because it needed some taillights, it needed some other underneath work, but I wasn't sure exactly what. But it also had a cracked windshield, so that was another $200 and some odd. So it turns out that the car wasn't worth what the Kelley Blue Book value on it was. So when he wanted to change the deal and just sign that over to me and say, well, you get to sell the car for whatever, he couldn't understand that I didn't want to deal with selling the car, plus the car wasn't worth the money, and so I wanted him still to pay me the money he owed me. And he
Fabulous.
just didn't
Where
understand.
is the car now?
It's in the parking lot of my parents' house.
Where's the title to the car?
I have the title here.
May I have it, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, he gave you the title, I assume, because you indicate that in your complaint, to hold as collateral.
Correct.
Mr. Pittman, Chad.
Yes.
That would be you, right?
That's me.
Guess what I have for you, Chad?
A title?
You know how quick and clever he is?
Sharp as a bowling ball.
Sharp as a bowling ball. Now you have the car. She wants her $840 and what she spent to get it out of impound.
I didn't ask her to get it out of impound. She went out to get it by herself.
Well, let me ask you this
Middleton
question, Mr. Pittman. Let's follow your logic, sir. We're now talking about a substantial amount of time later, 10 months. Ultimately, you were going to either get your car back or be stuck with paying her $840. What I'm giving you the opportunity to do is to take the car now that you have the title, and you can sell it. Maybe you can sell it for junk. Maybe you can get $200 for it. Maybe you can get $300 for it. Or you can sign the car over to her. Do you understand?
Yeah, that was
Sign the car over
original-
to her, and you're still going to pay her $840. What's your pleasure, Mr. Pittman? Mr. Pittman, this is your choice. I'm going to see how smart a boy you are. You can either sign the car over to her now and pay her $840, or you can keep the car and pay her $840. What would you like to do?
Well, I'll keep the car. I'll give her the $840.
Perfect. Love it. Thank you
good.
very much, in addition to the towing. You got it?
Gotcha.
Perfect. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,050.
Thank you, Your Honor.
23-year-old Erin King is suing her former roommate, 21-year-old Avian Moses, for stopping payment on a rent check. Avian claims Erin kicked her out after 2 weeks of living together.
Ms. King, the defendant was your roommate for a short period of time. It is your claim that she moved out after an argument that you had, and she put a stop payment on her rent check.
Yes.
You want your rent.
Right.
And the defendant says that you kicked her out of the apartment, and therefore she doesn't have to pay you any rent. Ms. Moses, you moved into Ms. King's apartment?
Yes, ma'am.
When?
I moved in approximately August the 4th, I believe, around the beginning of August.
Was it August 4th?
August 5th.
And you knew each other before?
Yes, we did.
Through college.
What was the rental arrangement?
The rental arrangement was that we would both split the rent equally, $305, including utilities. She was supposed to pay me on the 3rd of each month.
So far, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
When did she move out?
She moved out November the 14th.
Had she paid you November's rent?
Well, she wrote me a check when I went to the bank to cash it.
That's the rent check that she stopped paying
Right,
on.
and I have that as
Okay,
well.
so that was November 14th. So far you were in the apartment from November the 3rd to November the 14th.
Yes.
So you should have paid rent.
Yes.
On what date did you give her the rent?
Probably the 7th. It was after the time that I was supposed to give it to her. Oh, yes, ma'am, the 7th.
Why were you late with your rent?
Well, a week before that, my purse had gotten stolen, and I didn't have a bank card. I had to change all my accounts, and during this time when I was changing the numbers and all, getting everything straight, I informed Aaron of this. I said, I don't have a checkbook, I don't have a bank card. I said, can I just pay you next week once my accounts are in order? She said, yes, no problem. I said, I'll pay you a late fee. She said, okay, no problem, and I did so.
You paid her the rent?
Yes, and a late fee.
Which you owed her?
Yes.
And the late fee?
Yes.
Now, why did you stop payment on the check?
Me and Aaron had been having problems living together for about a month. She was in an abusive relationship. It was constant fighting in the apartment. Her boyfriend would come over, get high, smoke weed, hit on me. She'd leave him in there. She gave him a key to the apartment. She would constantly fight with me over food, saying I was stealing from her. We got into a physical altercation, and I decided this was the last straw. She was not on the lease and to get out of her house. So I said, gladly, I'll stop payment on my rent check, and I'll leave your house immediately.
Well, you can't do that. A, you didn't tell her you were stopping payment on the rent check.
I did tell her I was stopping payment on my rent check.
Really? No.
She
You didn't even
me.
say that in your answer, that you told her you would leave
She called
immediately.
me that same day, and I told her I was stopping payment on my rent check, and I was moving out.
You may have told her that after she called you on the phone, but when you had the argument with her in the house...
No, she told me to leave. She told me this was her apartment and to leave.
On the phone or in person?
No, when we had our physical altercation.
I understand that. You're not putting on your listening ears.
I'm sorry.
At the time you had this altercation and this argument, you did not say to her, I'm putting a stop payment on the rent check. According to you, you told her over the phone that you were putting a stop payment on the rent.
I apologize for not mentioning that, but I did tell her at the point when we were after the physical altercation, the police that came, I told her that I was leaving and I was stopping payment on my rent check.
Well, you can't.
Okay.
You can't. Unless, of course, she changed the locks.
Yes, that's exactly what she did.
When did you change the locks?
I changed the locks on the 14th. That was because she had been going through my belongings. She had actually stole from...
Just a second. You can't change the locks and ask for rent at the same time.
Well, I actually changed the locks after she did the stop payment on the check. After they gave me the check back from the bank, I went to the bank on the 11th. They told me at the bank I need to take this check back to Ms. Moses. They couldn't tell me why because it was concerning her account. After I left the bank, I said, Avian, I just left the bank. They gave me the check. She said, I'm not paying you anything. I'm moving out.
That's not correct.
And so after that, I later discovered that she had been in my room while I was out of the apartment.
Ms. King, can't have it both ways. If you change the locks on the apartment, making it impossible for her to come back to the apartment, you can't charge her for rent for the entire month.
She did come back to the apartment. After we got into the argument on that Sunday, the police came.
Who called the police?
She did. Even though she started the altercation, she was threatening me with an alcohol bottle, saying that she was going to hit me upside my head with it. While the police was there, I said, it's fine. She can stay, for the next 3 weeks. It won't be any problems. She left that Sunday. She actually came back that Monday and spent the night, even after she told me that she was moving out, and she had started to move her stuff out.
When did she finally move the last bit of property out of the house?
She didn't finish moving out because after I had the locks changed, I called her and I let her know that I had the locks changed and to call me and make arrangements to get the rest of her belongings. I guess she was angry because I had the locks changed, and she said, well, you're stealing my property. She was with her mother. I said, no, you can come in and get your stuff. I even gave her mother a futon cover that was in the living room and a financial aid paper. I guess, it has her financial information. I kept telling them, please come in and get the rest of your stuff. I even, gave them that. I wasn't...
When did she take it out, or did she still not
She left after I gave her mother the futon cover and the Norfolk State financial aid booklet. They said, we don't want the rest of the stuff. We're leaving, and they left it. And so she left a bed, a dresser,
Did you leave
clothing.
a bed and a dresser there?
Yes.
Ma'am, because... Yes, I did, because she wouldn't allow me to get it. She changed
you
locks.
didn't listen to me. You didn't sue her, did you, for your stuff?
Yes, I did. The court ordered her to give it back to me, and I didn't get it back until January the 1st of 2007.
Oh, so you did sue her. This is not the first time you've been in small claims court.
No, ma'am.
Really? I got it. Miss King, you're only entitled to half a month's rent. Change the locks, but you're entitled to half a month's rent. $152.50.
Okay.
Right? That's what your half a month's rent is.
Yes.
And that's what you offered to pay her.
Yes, I did. She said she didn't want it.
$152.50. Absolutely right. That's all. Judgment for the plaintiff.
Lee Ikuzi says former friend Dean Pottle assaulted him. Dean claims he was only protecting himself.
Ms. Ikuzi, it is your claim that the defendant assaulted you. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor. Before we get started, my pronoun is he. I made that clear. My name is Lee, and my pronoun is he. And
I didn't see
DOI.
that. I have Lisa.
Yeah, also known as Lee Ikuzi.
Okay.
I'm a trans.
It is your claim that the defendant assaulted you, Mr. Ikuzi, and the defendant says that quite the contrary, it was you who assaulted him. How do you know each other?
I met Dean Pottle when I was the Portland International Hostel manager, and I was in charge of the facilities at the time, and I also lived there. Dean came to my residence at the hostel looking for work. He was actually homeless at the time, and I took him in.
All right, so that's how you met him.
Yep.
When did this alleged assault take place?
April 2nd, 2005.
Tell me the circumstances, please.
I had a business transaction with Dean Pottle that failed. He was supposed to do a plumbing job for me in exchange for me mowing a lawn for him. I also had $1,000 with the oil paintings in his house that we were going to exchange for him to do plumbing services. I went over to his house 2 times. Both times I brought my witness, and on the second time I was assaulted.
Tell me how you were assaulted.
I brought my friend Buddy. There was a driveway that separated Buddy, Dean, and myself. I was leaning back on the car that was separated about 4 feet of driveway to Dean's house. Dean was arguing with Buddy. I told Dean that I was going to tell everybody that he's bisexual, and he ran 2 big full steps. Pushed his arm, swung me around into the car.
Just a minute, you went very quickly.
Yes.
You said you ran 2 steps?
No, I was leaning against the car here, and there was Dean's house.
Just a second. First you threatened to tell people that he was a bisexual?
Right, because he harassed me.
How was he harassing you when you came to his house?
I was at his house to collect money and my oil paintings.
I didn't hear how he was harassing you.
He harassed me 3 days before, and I was still upset about the incident. And
How did he harass you 3 days before?
I was at his house. I was massaging his hands. He went into the bathroom to take off his shirt to massage his shoulders. He came out butt naked and asked me to play with his...
So then why would you go back to his house?
Well, I brought a witness with me because I had $1,000 worth of paintings that
Did you get your paintings?
The second time that I arrived at the defendant's house, I did get my paintings.
Then what I'm asking you is, why did you have any exchange with him at all if you had your paintings?
The day, within the hour of the assault, at the beginning of the assault, I came in, brought a friend, asked him to go get my paintings, which I needed.
So we went and got your paintings?
Right. While I was getting my paintings, Dean came outside.
Just a second. Your paintings are in the car? If all 3 of you were there...
Paintings are in the car.
So now they're in the car.
Right.
Why aren't you in the car leaving?
Because he owes me more money. He owes me money.
Untrue.
He owes money from doing a plumbing job that he refuses to pay me. So I'm asking for my money. He refuses to pay me.
Put your hand down, please.
He refuses to pay me. And we have a verbal exchange. We've been friends for 7 years. I was really upset at what he did to me. I'm going through this transition. I felt he was taking advantage of me.
Keep going.
And words were exchanged. He walked 2 steps up to me and pushed me into a car. I swung back and got him off me. And
when you swung back, you hit him.
Well, he was on top of me. He was on top of me. He pushed me into a car, and he was on top of me.
How was he on top of you?
I have fingerprints. He pushed me like this, and he was on top of me right here when he pushed me. I leaned back, and I hit him.
I only defended myself.
Let me hear what happened, sir.
Well, when I followed him out with the paintings, and the car was out on the street, and I stood back at my driveway, probably 20 feet away from the car. When he went toward the car to put the paintings in the street, she came out of the vehicle and came toward me. Now, she was nowhere near a vehicle. Now, she came toward me very aggressively and yelling profanities and everything else, so I instinctively put my hand out to defend myself. And when she came close to me, I went like this and said, "Get out of Portland," because I felt she didn't belong in our environment there. And I turned to look at him, and he says, "Oh, you touched her first." And when I looked back, she went, bam, like this, right against my lip here. And I staggered back, yelled at me, and that's when she left.
First of all, sit up. Second of all, don't speak until I speak to you. Okay. Do you have a photograph of your injury?
No, I don't.
Do you have a photograph of your injury?
I have documentation of medical records.
I'd like to see it, please. Now you can step up, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Tell me your name.
My name is Buddy Bercu.
Spell your last name?
B-E-R-C-U. It's Romanian.
Left hand, left arm,
Kind of
Bruce.
difficult the first time. Anyways.
All right, now I ask questions.
Yes, go ahead.
I ask questions.
Please.
The paintings are in the car.
Okay, the paintings are in the car. I come back. he comes out, and the car is parked right by the driveway.
Who's in the car?
No one's in the car. They're both arguing with each other, and I'm like, okay, let them vent a little bit and get some of this out, you know, because
Just a second.
I
Where
don't want to
were they
intervene.
as you were putting the paint? I'm speaking. You're not paying attention
When they
to
were
me.
putting
Try-
the paintings were already in the car, you said.
Listen to me.
Okay,
Listen. Try
I'm trying.
putting on your listening ears.
I will.
You're putting the paintings in the car,
That's correct.
and he's letting you take the paintings.
That's correct.
Now, the last of the paintings is in the car, right?
That's correct.
Why didn't you both get in the car and leave?
Because, Your Honor, this isn't about that. It's about the disrespect and the way that the abuse had gone down in the first place. And he had not
You're
said he
talking
was
about
sorry.
this incident 3 days before that Lee has just described to me.
Apparently, Lee hadn't worked through the whole incident yet, Your Honor.
Then he was angry.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Got it. See how easy it is to get to the truth?
Can I give you some more truth, or do you want?
Can I get to the truth? Absolutely. Can you give me some more bald facts, sir?
Yes, sir.
I
Yes, ma'am.
determine what the truth is.
I understand that.
You understand?
You're the judge.
Okay. So far we have somebody who wanted their paintings, made 3 trips, got the paintings, but according to you and your Lee's witness, Lee wasn't finished being angry about something that happened 3 days before and wanted an apology.
That's correct, Your Honor.
I got
And then what happened was he said, instead of, I have a restraining order on you or get out of my property, he said, get out of Portland, which I thought was a little bit wide of a swath for his powers. I mean, Portland's a big
Yes.
place. Then he approached, what he did was he just said, basically, get out of Portland, get out of Portland. And the third get out of Portland, he rushed like he was doing a shot put. And just the whole body, everything came through, but not upward, but straight, like a thrust, and hit. And I could see that she grimaced in pain, and she was crying out. And then what happened simply is a counterattack just to save face. Because I would imagine transitioning to become a man, you have to prove to other men you're a man. So that's why I stayed away from this up until this point. I didn't feel there was any danger up to that point where I had to intervene. I got some heat for that. Say, well, I should have just kicked his, I wasn't going to do that. So anyway, I don't think violence solves anything. And at any rate, what happened was he said, you can't hit me. Or you can't hit me, I'll kill you, or something. I don't remember what it was exactly. Something to that effect. Just was really surprised that Lee would counterattack. And then I just stepped in and said, look, you hit Lee first. And just kind of diffuse him.
Did you see his bloody lip?
No, he had no bloody lip. There's no... It was... The hand, she was like, like this, because, it was not a closed fist. And I never use a fist because you could not close
I
it.
might ask interested whether you use a fist.
But
or
I'm
not.
just saying, you can hurt
I'm
your
not
hands.
Okay. Shh, I'm not interested whether you use a fist or not. It's not
Yes, ma'am.
particularly relevant here.
I want you to stop. You're going to be making a fool of yourself. I want you to stop.
Shh. I apologize.
You're killing me.
When was the first time that you were prescribed Vicodin?
I've had an ongoing neck and condition.
Right, I see
since-
that. So you had all kinds of problems that you were prescribed Vicodin for and all kinds of other pain medication.
Right.
Listen, you both behaved badly. You're not supposed to hit her. She's not supposed to come onto your property aggressively, which is exactly what she did. You're not supposed to push her. You're not supposed to punch him. It's over. Finished. Who has an order of protection? Either one of you?
I'm going to get one from both of them.
Well, that's a very, very good idea, sir.
Thank you.
And do me a favor, get one for me, too. That's all. Thank you.
Apologies, I excuse you.
25-year-old Kendra Weber is suing her former roommates, 22-year-old Andrea Gonzalez and her boyfriend, Kyle Evans, for the return of her security deposit and renter's insurance.
Miss Gonzalez, how long were you and Miss Weber friends before you decided to room together?
About 3 years.
When did you sign this lease, Miss Weber?
On November 8th, 2004.
And how many people signed the lease?
Just us two, Andrea and I.
And what was your agreement?
We were to split all of the bills and rent 50-50 two ways.
And this must be Kyle.
That's correct.
Who is Kyle?
Kyle is my boyfriend.
Kyle didn't sign the lease.
No, he did not.
You moved out.
Yes, that's correct.
It is your claim that you moved out because things were made totally untenable with the apartment and you wanted to move in with your boyfriend.
This is correct.
And you want some of your security deposit back and some renter's insurance.
That's correct.
Several $100s. And Ms. Gonzalez and Mr. Evans say that you're not entitled to it. You moved out and you knew that you were going to forfeit any monies that you put into the apartment. Did you move in November of 2004?
Yes.
When did you move out?
April 30th.
And you had paid your rent up until that time?
Yes, I had.
And for my own information, when did Kyle move in?
It was just about a week or two after we moved in, so still in November of 2004.
And what was the rent on the apartment?
$12.75 for the first 6 months, and after that, $13.75.
And how much were you paying?
The first month I paid half, and then after he moved in, we split it 3 ways, $4.25 apiece.
And how much security deposit did you put in, Kyle?
I didn't put any in.
Why?
I wasn't on the lease.
Well, you were living there.
For the majority.
So why didn't you pay security deposit?
Because the security deposit was worked out between the defendant and plaintiff.
Are you still living there?
Yes.
You are?
Yes.
How much security deposit did you put in now?
Nothing.
Nothing. Well, now you're going to put in her security deposit, Kyle. Do you understand?
Yes.
Good. So you're going to give her $285, and then when you move out, if you keep the place nice and clean, you're going to get your $285 back. Doesn't that sound fair to you?
Yes.
Perfect. See how easy this is? Now let's deal with the renter's insurance. Did you pay the renter's insurance?
I paid half of it, yes.
You paid half. How much did you pay, Kyle?
None.
Why not, Kyle?
Because I wasn't officially living there. I was in
What do you mean
between.
you're not officially living there? You were living there, Kyle, because you were paying a third of the rent after 1 month of them signing the lease. You were officially living there. You're not a moron, are you? You wouldn't pay rent in an apartment where you weren't living, would you?
No, I was helping my girlfriend out.
Well, where else were you paying rent, Kyle?
Nowhere else, but I was also with my mom.
You weren't paying any rent to your mom?
No.
He was not living with his mom.
Just a second. Of course he wasn't living with his mom. He thinks because I'm older than he is, I'm stupid. You think all old people are stupid?
No.
Very good. So, you wouldn't pay rent for a place where you weren't living. What do you do for a living?
Loan setup. I work in the mortgage industry.
And how do you get to work every day?
I drive.
A what?
A car.
In whose name is the car?
That would be in my mom's and my name.
Is it in your mom's name because you're too young to have a car in your name?
No, it's just I needed a cosigner on the car.
Oh, but your mom doesn't drive in the car.
Not usually, no.
It's your car.
For the most part, yes.
And how far does your mom live away from you?
I'd say about 15 miles.
So how long does it take you to drive when you go visit her?
10 minutes.
So she doesn't come on the weekends to take your car, does she?
No, but I visit her on the weekends.
You do?
Yes.
And the rest of the time you live where?
I live most of the time over there. There are nights where I do go over there.
What a moron. All right, listen to me, Kyle. You're going to give Miss Weber $313. $285 of that represents her security deposit, which you have now taken over. Do you understand? When you're neat and clean and tidy and you and your girlfriend decide to move out, you'll get the $285 back. Doesn't that sound fair to you?
There was also damage
I'm
done.
speaking. Does that sound fair to you?
Yes.
Then you have renter's insurance. Now, renter's insurance covers any property that may be in the apartment. How much property does she have in the apartment?
At that time or right now?
Now!
None.
How much property do you have in the apartment?
A good amount, I believe.
Good. Then the renter's insurance is going to help you out. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $313. It's been delightful chatting with you.
Thank you.
Parties are excused.
26-year-old Laura Joza is suing bar patron 22-year-old Jason Witzel for the cost to fix her car. Laura claims Jason body slammed his friend into the vehicle.
Ms. Joza, the defendant, you believe, damaged your car while he was drunk in a parking lot of a bar. Your car at that time had been driven to work by your boyfriend. Is this the boyfriend?
Right.
You were not present when this happened.
I was not.
Were you present?
Yes, I was.
Step up, please. On what date did this incident happen with her car?
This was 1 o'clock in the morning on March 4th.
What's the name of the bar where you work?
It's called Little Pedro's. It's
What do you
on,
do there?
I work the front door, and my car was basically parked about 20 feet away from me.
Her car?
Or we live together. It's our car.
It's registered
just
in my name, but our car.
It's titled in your name?
It is.
And you are not married?
We've been living together 7 years, kind of. I don't know if that makes it.
Doesn't make it.
No.
By my standards, but yeah, anyway. Go ahead.
Doesn't make it. So it's your car?
My car.
Tell me what you observed, sir.
Well, basically what happened, he came out of the club, And as he came out, I can kind of tell him and his friends were a little riled up. I guess having a good time, but a little agitated for some reason. They walked down the way, and they actually were right in the side of my car. And all of a sudden, they just escalated into them wrestling each other. And at that moment, when I seen them wrestling, I was starting to walk over there. And as soon as I started going out of the door to go over there, he grabbed his friend that he was wrestling and slammed him into my vehicle. So I ran over there. As I was grabbing him, he swung, missed me, struck his friend right in the nose, was bleeding all over the place. And then I told him, you know, they're not coming into the club, that they're done. You guys definitely are over it. But about 10, 15 minutes later, I guess I was so adrenaline rushed at the time, I didn't notice that my car was damaged. And I looked, and I could see it in the light reflecting off the side of the vehicle that it was damaged right where they fell into it. So then I looked around.
Well, they didn't fall into it. According to you, Mr. Witzel body slammed his
friend into the car. He slammed his friend into the car, and his friend fell with his back onto the vehicle, and they both collided into the car with both of their force.
Got it. Okay.
And then what happened after that, he said he was going to be compliant with it. We filled out an incident report from the club that he signed, stating what happened, you know, what time, and all this.
Can I see it, please?
Sure. We also have pictures of the damage, if you'd like that.
I would.
Also have the insurance information that he gave us.
That was actually another kind of a weird thing. Insurance card that he stated that it was his insurance, but it was actually just his AAA service.
He can't have insurance for this.
Yeah, I know,
they don't
but that's...
give insurance for this. This incident report indicates that Jason, that would be you, is that right? Was so drunk he couldn't even write his name or number. So, let me hear you.
Well, I was already kind of kicked out of the bar because I had too much to drink.
Yeah.
And I was sitting outside waiting for my friends.
Yeah.
And there was probably maybe like 50 to 60 people outside.
Yeah.
And where he was, from where his car was, he couldn't have seen what happened.
How do you know what he saw, sir? You were drunk.
Because he was standing inside of the door.
I was not.
Don't speak.
I mean, I did walk into the place. I saw where he was when he was, you know, taking IDs
Jason,
and whatnot.
Two things. There is a signed acknowledgement of responsibility.
Right.
That you signed.
Right.
Now, you say that you were too drunk to know anything about what you signed. That's your defense to that. Is that right?
Yeah.
And yet you're telling me you were not drunk enough.
Well,
so listen, let me finish. You were too drunk to know what you signed, but not so drunk as to be able to tell me that he couldn't have seen what he says he saw.
Okay, but the times are completely different. I was waiting outside for like 45 minutes before he even came up to me. They didn't let me back in. I had to ask him if I could get my friends to leave. And then I probably waited outside like another 30, 45 minutes before he let me back in. And then when we were walking out to leave is when he pulled me aside and said he was looking for me because something happened to his car. At that point, I didn't know what was going on. I knew nothing about the car. I don't even think he knew about the car. I think someone told him and he saw us fighting. And it was like, oh, they were probably close to it. They might as well have done it. When there were so many people out there that were walking by, anyone could have done it.
Well, that's true, but he says you did it. And you're too drunk to know what you did.
Well, of course, I'm drunk. He sees a really drunk guy signing a thing that I'm too drunk to sign. It's easy.
Do you know, Jason, what that would suggest to me?
What?
That a good life's lesson is, if you're going to drink, don't drink too much. Because if you drink too much, you really can't tell what kind of dumb thing you might do, or you can't really defend yourself when somebody says that you did something that you say you didn't do. Do you follow that?
Yeah, I follow that.
So that would be a good lesson. Go to college?
No, I'm in the Navy.
Is that where you learned how to drink?
Not necessarily.
Because you don't drink well, sir.
Well, maybe it was a long night of drinking.
Was there any reason for that?
I don't know. You start off with a few, and then, I don't know, you end up having more than you expected.
That sounds stupid.
At the time, I guess it didn't.
But it does sound stupid, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sounds
Because now
stupid.
you're going to have to fix a car. What kind of car is it?
It's a 2005 Cadillac CTS, so it's a expensive car which is in pristine condition. It's not like I had something on it before, or, you know, it's a perfect car. I have a question, too, for him. Since he says now that, you know, he didn't do it, it could have been anybody. So since we had contact with him days afterward, and everything was fine, oh, yeah, we'll take care of it. Take it to my place over here. Those days you were sober, so that doesn't make any sense that, oh, you were too drunk at that, you know, that day. But then days afterward, you didn't say you didn't do it. This is the first that we hear that it could have been 50 or 60 people that did it.
But he told me it was his car, and now all of a sudden it's her car.
Just a second. What difference does that make to you?
Well, all right, after the whole incident, it got kind of fishy, you know? He called me like...
Listen, I don't want to hear you anymore.
Okay.
Quite frankly, when a 22-year-old gets so drunk that they don't know what they're doing, makes me nauseous. I want to gag. My gag reflex is that you owe her $500. Judgment for the plaintiff.
All right.
That's all.
Thank you.
Diane Cowan is suing her son, 23-year-old Kenneth Cowan Jr., for car payments and for stealing her tax refund from their shared bank account.
Mrs. Cowan, this is your son. Your lawsuit claims two things. First, that you had an arrangement with your son wherein he would use your car and make the payments on it while he was using it until he purchased his own car. You claim that with regard to that portion of your complaint, he did make some payments, didn't pay them all, and ultimately you sent somebody down, your fiancé?
Yes.
Down to pick up the car because he had moved to a different state. So you want him to pay some $1,000 that he should have paid on the car. Second part of your complaint, which I really believe, based upon what I read, is what you're complaining about. You just tacked on, is that you and your son shared a joint bank account. At some point, he withdrew $2,000 from that joint bank account, and he withdrew that money, which was from your tax refund, because you claimed him as a dependent for last year. And he says he's entitled to that money because he was going to file his own tax return as a single individual, but since you had already claimed him as a dependent, he couldn't claim himself, so he took the $2,000 because he said you weren't entitled to it, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Am I correct, Ms. Cowan, that but for the withdrawal from the bank, we wouldn't be bothering with any money he might owe on the car?
No, we had made a verbal agreement, and I told him that once he took the vehicle to Texas, that he would be responsible for the payments.
Did you have that agreement with your mother?
Yes, ma'am, we did.
Fine. At that time, were you going to school, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you also working?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you working full-time or part-time?
Part-time.
Who was supporting you?
I was on academic scholarship and receiving money from Pell Grants.
Did your mother send you any money?
She may have given me a total of $500.
Okay. Is it correct, Ms. Cowan, that for the year 2004, your son was basically self-supporting?
No.
Well, how did you support him?
Okay, by me being a disabled veteran, it took care of his 2 years of college.
Just a second.
Okay.
You're being a disabled veteran and the government picking up part of his tuition means that we supported him, not you. Is it true that he was either self-supporting or on scholarships and or Pell Grants that he's going to have to return?
Yeah, he was on Pell Grants, but I supported him as far as sending monies for groceries or if he ran short.
How much money did you send him the year 2004?
I would say over $2,000.
Show me.
I don't have it as far as monetary back. Most of the time I would always deposit it in my account because we shared account.
I have bank statements showing to where there were deposits made on the account, and these are the only cash deposits on the account are ones that I made.
How many times did you withdraw money from this account, Mr. Cowan?
Very rare, maybe once a semester, if that.
So this was primarily your bank account, that you used this bank account to pay your bills?
Yes.
Okay. You have a copy of your tax returns from last year, sir?
Yes, ma'am. My W-2s and my tax return.
So you had an adjusted gross income of a little over $5,600.
Yes, ma'am.
And according to your statement, if I believed you, which I don't, at most you sent your son $2,000.
Right.
Then you were not entitled to claim him as a deduction because you didn't contribute more than 50% of his support. You were not entitled to claim him as a deduction.
Yes, but according to VA, if I had not claimed him as a dependent, then they would not have taken care of his bills. You know, I'm not a...
Just a second. Let us say that because of some regulation, you were required to claim him as a dependent, even though you did not contribute more than 50% of his support. Let's say that that's true. Then what you should have done was discuss it with your son and say, listen, for the purposes of the VA, so that you can continue to have all your classes covered or whatever percentage the VA covers, I have to claim you as a dependent. But I'm going to give you the $2,000. What would have been wrong with that?
Well, I agreed to that. And
so then why are you complaining that he took the $2,000 out of your account?
Because it was the procedures that he took. Now, he know normally there has not denied him of anything.
So you didn't like the fact that he did it in a sneaky way?
That's right.
Okay. She says she didn't like the idea that you were sneaky about it. Well, I think, Ms. Cowan, one of the reasons he might have been sneaky about it was because when he filed his tax returns, he filed them as an independent, and then he was told later that he was denied his refund because you had already claimed him as a dependent. Had your mother discussed the fact that she was going to claim you?
She had said she was going to try to claim me to recoup some money that I hadn't paid her on a car payment. She told this to my uncle.
Oh, well, I don't want to hear about the car payment. Listen to me, Ms. Cowan. As far as I'm concerned, you've got a son that's doing the right thing. If you had a car and you let him take the car so that he could go to school and look for a job, that's what you're supposed to do. You're his mother. How many children do you have?
I have 2.
Okay, well, it seems to me this one is doing okay, which means that your mother probably did something right.
Yes, ma'am.
Should have done the right thing. Shouldn't have made this situation so mucky. Ms. Cowan, irrespective of what he did, you're still his mother, and I sometimes wonder whether I would have, I don't have to wonder, I would not have pursued this matter in court. I would have said to him, it's not the right thing to do. What's your first name?
Kenneth.
It's not the right thing to do, Kenneth. You shouldn't have gone behind my back and taken the $2,000 out of the account. I was prepared to give it to you, but you shouldn't have just taken it. I'm not so sure that you were prepared to give it to him, because according to you, he owed you some money on this car nonsense. Can't tell you how many cars I bought my children. If you had not claimed your son as a dependent, what would have been your refund?
I would have gotten $1,913 from that.
And how much would you actually get?
$29.13.
Yes, sir.
When I asked my mother for her tax return, I was going to return whatever she didn't get for claiming me. She sent me a tax return that said she only got $300 for me, which was false.
But you got $1,000 for you.
Right.
Is that what you want, sir?
Yes.
Then you have to give your mother back $1,000 because you took out $2,000 from her account.
No, I was supposed to get $2,000 back, and I was unable.
Listen to me. What your mother is saying is she was required by the VA to claim you as a dependent in order for you to get certain benefits. So, although if you filed for yourself as an independent, you would have gotten $2,000, if she didn't file for you as a dependent of hers, you wouldn't have gotten other benefits which far outweighed that $2,000. Are you following me?
Yes, ma'am.
So that you should not have taken out the $2,000 from the account, because all she got, by virtue of her claiming you as a dependent, was an extra $1,000. So that's all you were entitled to. Are you following me?
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,000. That's all.
Susan James Schoonmaker is suing her daughter, 20-year-old Heather Huddleston, for stealing and pawning her wedding rings. Heather claims she had her mother's permission.
Ms. Schoonmaker, this young lady is your daughter, and according to your complaint, she owes you some money. She owes you some money because, as a result, according to you, of her drug abuse, she fell behind in her rent. She and her boyfriend, and she came to you for money, and you gave her jewelry to pawn. She pawned the jewelry. She was supposed to get it out. She didn't. You lost the jewelry. You want the money. Is that right?
Well, she also stole my wedding rings out of my jewelry box and pawned them without my knowledge.
For how long has your daughter had a drug problem?
I didn't know that she had one. She told me it was her boyfriend.
When she came to you and asked for money, she told you that the boyfriend had a drug problem?
She said that he was spending money on things he shouldn't and stuff like that.
So then why in the world would you give her jewelry to pawn?
I gave it to her so she would have a place to live. I didn't want her.
Why couldn't she come home?
I have other children that I don't want exposed to the lifestyle that she was doing.
Well, just a second. I thought you said there was nothing wrong with her lifestyle. It was the boyfriend.
And I don't know what her lifestyle was. I know that she was spending money and doing things that she should not be doing.
Then you
That's the reason that
you
she
shouldn't
left.
have given her your jewelry.
You're right.
So then what are you doing in court?
I'm doing it in court because she stole rings from my jewelry box that I had no knowledge of.
I want you to forget about the pawn jewelry.
Right.
And I think that you knew what her lifestyle was, and that if you gave her jewelry to pawn, there was no legitimate expectation of you getting this money back, because drug abusers don't return money. Drug abusers put money in their arms or up their noses. Right, Miss Huddleston?
Yes, ma'am.
Your mother says that after she gave you this jewelry to pawn, which you did, you stole some property from her. Did you?
That's not true.
Well, tell me about these wedding rings that she said that you took.
The wedding rings she never wore, and I came upon a time when I needed money for rent, and she told me to go ahead and take the jewelry out of her jewelry box, the wedding rings, to pawn them so I could pay rent, because she never wore them. She hasn't worn them in 5 years.
That's not true.
What other jewelry did she give you?
Previously, she had given me a bag of gold necklaces and a ring that my grandmother had given her. She offered it. I never asked her for money. I told her that I was having problems, and she offered it to me.
That's not true.
What kind of drugs were you or are you involved with?
I was smoking marijuana, and she knew.
And the boyfriend?
Anything and everything.
But not you?
The only thing I ever did was marijuana.
Susan Jane Schoonmaker says her daughter, Heather Huddleston, stole her wedding rings and pawned them.
Still with the boyfriend?
Nope.
Who do you live with now?
I live with friends in Arizona.
Do you work?
Not yet. I'm a student.
You're a student where?
At massage therapy school.
Who pays for it?
I got a grant.
Pays for your living expenses?
I do.
From what?
I have money.
From what?
Doing various jobs. I clean houses and babysit.
Oh, what a bunch of baloney. What a bunch of baloney.
It's true.
My dear Miss Huddleston, you wouldn't know the truth if it came up and cracked you in the face. The wedding rings, when did you find out that they were missing?
When I always go into my jewelry box because I keep my earrings and everything in there. I wasn't wearing the rings because one of the diamonds was loose.
Don't tell me what you weren't wearing them. You weren't wearing them.
I wasn't wearing them, and they were gone. I called her at school. She was going to massage therapy school at the time when this happened, and I said, my wedding rings are gone. Do you know where they are? Have you done? She goes, no, I don't know, but when I come home, I will help you find them. And she came home, and I sat her down, and I said, I'm calling the police. And once the police are involved, if you're involved, you're going to jail because I can't stop it. And she said she took them, and she pawned them, and she thought she could get them back in my jewelry box before I noticed.
That's what drug addicts do.
I know.
Not casual marijuana smokers. How much were the wedding rings pawned for?
$150.
Did you go to the pawn shop to try to get them back?
I didn't know what pawn shop it was, and her boyfriend called me and told me after she left him for no reason, he didn't even know that she had left him, that he went down to the pawn shop because that's where he gave her the money to go down and pick them up and bring them to me. She told me she was on her way to my house to do laundry and bring me my rings and never showed up. And this is the first time I've seen her since then. The pawn shop had sold all the rings a while ago. A guy that she met on the internet.
One guy? Or
One
friend?
guy with his old girlfriend and his baby.
How old is she?
She'll be 21 in December. I've tried to help her. I don't know how else to help her. And I feel like she needs to start paying for the things that she's doing. And I just thought here at least she would start seeing what her actions are going to start becoming. They're going to get worse. I don't want to have to pick her up in jail. And I won't.
Sometimes you have to hit rock bottom before you're ready to turn your life around.
That's what I'm hoping.
When did she leave home?
She left home when she was 19.
You go to live with this boyfriend?
She knew him a week and left.
Who else lives at home with you?
My 17-year-old daughter, my 12-year-old daughter, and my 10-year-old son.
You know what these rings were appraised for that she took?
I went in and I got an estimate on what it would cost to replace all of the rings.
Not all the rings.
No, I know, but it has just them separated. My wedding ring and my engagement ring set is on here. $28.99 for the engagement ring and $880 for the wedding ring.
Are you still married to the man who gave you the rings?
Yes, I am. We've lived together for 16 years.
He's not her father?
He's not her father. But you'd never know the difference.
Anything you want to say?
She told me that those rings were remnants of an unhappy marriage and that she was happy to get rid of them. And that's why she let me pawn them. And I
never said that.
I just think it's really funny, you know, she was helping me out, and now because she's getting in trouble from my stepdad and my grandma, she's got to turn around and blame it on me, and I just don't think that's fair.
What do you think is fair?
I didn't do anything wrong. She gave it to me.
You did do something wrong. You came to your mother and you said, I got a drug addict boyfriend, I'm behind in the rent, you were living a lifestyle that was inappropriate, and you came to your mother, who clearly is not a rich lady, because if she was a rich lady, she would have had the money to give you for the rent. She didn't, so all she had was this bag of jewelry, and you're a big girl. You chose to be a big girl. You chose to move out of your house and live on your own.
I never asked her to help me. She offered to help.
How would she know that you needed anything unless you came to her and said, I don't have rent? Listen to me. How would she know that you needed money unless you came to her and told her that you didn't have rent money?
Because I came over one day and I was upset. And like any caring mother would, she asked what was wrong. At least I thought she was caring. Sorry.
You got to do the right thing. You still have time. If you continue to make bad choices in your life, you know what's going to happen. You're going to end up being, instead of a 20-year-old bum, a 40-year-old bum. If you lie down with dirt, you get dirty. Did you ever hear that expression? Did everybody say anything like that to you? If you lie down in dirt, you're going to get dirty. And it sounds to me like you went from the frying pan into the fire. It's not too late. You're still a young girl. But you better start making right choices. Because if you don't make right choices, you're going to end up a 40-year-old dirty girl instead of a 20-year-old dirty girl. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Bernice Fallick is suing her granddaughter's ex-boyfriend, 25-year-old Marvin Watson, for unpaid loans and collect calls from jail.
This is your granddaughter?
Yes, it is.
Your first name is?
Nicole.
Who do you live with, Nicole?
I live on my own right now, Your Honor.
Where were you living when you were involved with Mr. Watson?
I was living at my grandmother's house, Your Honor.
How old are you?
I'm 24 years old, Your Honor.
What do you do for a living, Nicole?
I'm a hostess.
Hostess where?
At the Outback Steakhouse.
For how long?
I've been with that company, Your Honor, for 8 years.
So you have a responsible job?
Yes, Your Honor.
You have any children?
No, Your Honor.
Perfect. So you have no children, you have a responsible job.
Yes, Your Honor.
Ever had any trouble with drugs, alcohol?
No, Your Honor, I have not.
So far, is all that correct, Miss Fowler?
Absolutely, yes, Your Honor.
She only had one lapse.
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor. Yes. Your Honor, yes. I have to say, otherwise my mom will kill me, that she loves you. Now we can go on.
Thank you.
Very much. More than you, actually. Grandma, she wishes that was her mom. She would have done better in life. Okay, anyway.
All right, Miss Fallick.
Yes.
This is what your lawsuit is about. Mr. Watson somehow wangled his way into your granddaughter's heart.
Yes.
And then he went off to jail.
Yes.
For what?
For violating a restraining order.
What kind of restraining order?
And no contact.
No contact with who?
With my daughter's mom.
And she got a restraining order because you were abusive?
No.
Because you were stalking her?
No.
Well, how did she get a restraining order?
She didn't want me to see my daughter.
How many times did you violate the restraining order?
Just once.
How badly did you violate it?
I went to the daycare and picked up my daughter.
So you had an order that said you weren't allowed to go near the child unsupervised as well?
Until I appeared in court, yes.
And you didn't like somebody telling you what to do?
Yes.
Got it. I'm just trying to develop the personality here. Now, Mr. Watson, was that the first time you were ever incarcerated? What word didn't you understand, Mr. Watson? Was that the first time you were ever incarcerated?
No, it's not.
What were you incarcerated for previously, sir?
For assault.
Assaulting who?
Someone I don't know.
A stranger?
Yep.
Where did you assault this stranger?
At a bar.
All right. Now, did the mother of your child allege, I didn't say you did it, but did the mother of your child allege that you also assaulted her?
No.
That you threatened her?
No.
She just said, I want a restraining order, and didn't allege anything.
Yes. No.
Well, we sort of, you know, in the family court where I used to work, we used to give out those restraining orders where there was no proof, nobody asked for anything. We'd have every other Monday. We just said, anybody wants a restraining order, you come on in, you don't have to say anything. We just give them out. Now, how long were you incarcerated for, sir?
For 2 years.
You were incarcerated for 2 years for violating a restraining order?
Oh, well, the first time when I got arrested, for the restraining order, I was only in jail for 3 months.
2 years for an assault?
Yeah.
Must have been a pretty bad assault. And the second time you were in jail for 3 months. That must have been some violation. And while you were in jail, Miss Fallick says she did everything that she could to make it easier for you. You called her house 2-3 times a day, collect. And how much was your phone bill?
A total of $563.
Is that for the 3 months?
It was 3.5 months.
3.5 months. And then she gave her granddaughter money so that she could put the money in your bank account because you didn't like the prison food.
Yes.
Tell me what he said to you.
His exact words were, I'm losing weight. I cannot eat the prison food. I need to buy food in the wherever. I don't know anything about prison.
Commissary.
And also, he said he needed toiletries, and he played on my sympathies. I really felt sorry for him. And he asked for $20 a week, which I gave him all the time he was in jail. And he said to me, I have $4,000 in the bank. When I come out, I will pay you. And I hear his words in my ears, I will pay you back. Also, one other thing I did. The night he was arrested, he called my house. He asked if we could please pick up his keys at the jail and bring his car, because he was afraid it would be vandalized, and bring his car to my development and put it in my parking spot, which I did until he came out.
How much did that cost you each month?
I broke it down. It was $45 a month, but December, he came out around December 18th. I just did half, and that came out to $157.50.
And the $20 a week, how much was that, Miss Fallick?
$260.
You used to go to visit him?
Yes, Your Honor. I went a few times to visit him. That's when I would go to leave the money on the books, Your Honor. I would do that all on the same day, Your Honor.
Well, what happened when he got out of jail?
He got out of jail, Your Honor, and he did make an attempt. He paid my grandma $31. He said that was his tips that he made for moving, Your Honor. And then after that, Your Honor, he said that we're not getting the rest of our money and to take him to court.
Why is that, Mr. Watson?
I never agreed to paying Ms. Fallick back or Nicole back any money. I never asked any of them for the money that they was giving me. Nicole offered to help me out. Nicole said that don't worry about any of the costs, it's inexpensive. I don't owe them anything. She was being nice out of the kindness of her heart. I never asked them for anything.
Who's kind hearts?
Out of hers and her grandma's, I guess. I never asked them for anything, not one dime.
Did you have to, sir, give permission to have the jail authorities turn over your car keys to Nicole and or her grandmother? Or do you think that the jail turned over your car keys to anybody who said, I came for his car keys? Do you know what I'm talking to you about? Do you know what I'm saying to you? You will not think faster than I, Mr. Watson. You are not that smart. When you were incarcerated, they came and picked up your car keys. Now, do you think that the prison authorities just turn over your car keys to anybody who walks in and says, I want Watson's car keys?
No.
So you had to have given permission for one or both of them to come and get your car keys. Is that right?
I didn't just turn over my car
Just a second.
keys.
Just answer my question.
Yes.
Now, what were they supposed to do with your car?
Nicole was, my mother was picking up my car.
They would not have turned over your car keys to these two ladies if your mother was supposed to come and pick up your car, because I got news looks like them.
Okay.
You get me?
I get you.
I don't like liars, Mr. Watson. I don't like criminals, I don't like liars, and when there's a combination, it's deadly. Miss Fallick is not telling me any sort of a lie when she said that she spoke to you and you said you don't like the prison food, you're losing weight. Now, she may have been operating out of the goodness of her heart. I think she was.
So why would I
think she was.
For toilet paper? They give you toilet paper in there. She just said that I said I didn't have any toilet paper. They give you toilet paper
not
too.
toilet paper. Not toilet
What did she say when she said?
I'm going to tell you what she said, sir.
Okay.
You know, you got to go to a little advanced education. There's a difference between toilet paper and toiletries.
Okay.
Mr. Smarty Pants.
Okay.
You know the difference?
I know now. You just told me.
Well, what are toiletries? Did you make an error in judgment, Nicole?
Yes, Your Honor.
Don't repeat it. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $980.
Is suing the mother of her son's schoolmate, Miranda Peters, for medical bills. Rebecca says Miranda's boy broke her son's arm while roughhousing.
Your son?
Yes, ma'am.
Just next to your mother. Who was the basketball player? What's your first name?
Keith.
And yours?
Michael.
Your arm got broken in school.
Yes, ma'am.
Your arm got broken when he bumped into you.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me what happened.
Well, I was trying to get into the game, and pretty much...
When did this happen?
March 17th of 04.
You were trying to get into what game?
In PE that day, it was pretty much a free day, and I was trying to get into the game, and they were pretty much just shoving me off.
Who was?
All the players. So I would steal the ball and run away with it, trying to be funny, and all the players would chase me.
So what I'm hearing is neither team wanted you to play that day, so you decided to play class clown and steal the ball and interrupt their game.
Yes, ma'am.
So what happened next?
Well, all the players pretty much chased me down and eventually got it from me, and while I was standing in the crowd, he gestured for the other players to clear a path to me, and when he did, he tossed the ball at me. And whenever I saw it was coming at me, I just tensed up and turned, and it hit me in my left hip.
Didn't hurt you?
No, ma'am.
And then what happened?
I just sort of walked up to him. Behind him was a gym mat, pretty thick and soft. So I wrapped my arms around him and purposely fell onto the gym mat. Everybody was laughing, and he did the same thing to me. And
you wrestled him, then he wrestled you to the ground, to the mat.
It was not an act of anger.
Okay. So you weren't angry with him?
No, ma'am.
And you don't think he was angry with you?
No, ma'am.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
What happened next?
Well, there was a rolled-up gym mat close to the compacted bleachers to the wall, and I got in between that and just for the thrill of not being seen, and about 10 or 15 minutes.
I don't understand what that means. Just for the thrill of not being seen.
Just a childly...
No, well, what were you doing?
Nothing.
You mean you were hiding?
Yes, ma'am.
Who were you hiding from?
Nobody.
Keith.
Yes, ma'am.
So far, I'm getting a whole good story. I love this story so far. He wasn't angry with you, you weren't angry with him, but now you're hiding someplace and you're not hiding from anybody.
Well,
that doesn't sound like you could...
Well, I mean, me and my friend Anthony were both doing it, and he was behind another one to the right of me, and about...
What were you doing?
Just hiding.
Just hiding?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
And, well, I tried to get out, and I pulled... It was kind of tight in there, so I was trying to wheeze my way out, and I pulled my my left arm across my chest, and about that time I just felt the mat be shoved into me.
The mat being shoved into you by?
By Michael.
And that's how you broke your arm?
Yes, ma'am.
So, Michael, what happened?
I rammed the mat. I wasn't intentionally trying to break his arm. I was just horseplaying with him, like we were earlier. And
so you were horseplaying?
Yeah.
You knew he was there?
Yes, ma'am.
You knew he was there?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, Ms. Peters, your defense to this says, let me read it so that I make sure I get your language clear. I told her that with children, and particularly with boys, these things happen.
Yes, Your Honor.
Explain that to me.
The reason I said that boys will be boys and that it wasn't my responsibility to pay for the bills was because it was an accident. He didn't mean to do it.
It wasn't an accident, Ms. Peters. That's your problem, you see. If your son was playing a game and during the course of the game he ran into this structure, not intending to come into contact with Keith at all, but it was during the course of a game and he was at a place where he could get hurt, that's an accident. But that's not what your son told me. Your son told me he saw him there and he was just fooling around with him and rammed him. Unfortunately, when he rammed him, his arm was in such a position that it broke. Okay. So his action, not in breaking his arm, I don't think he intended to break his arm, of course not. But he intended to hit him. And for that, he is responsible. Just as if his leg, when he tackled him to the mat, horseplay. But when young people are involved in horseplay, and if you had broken his leg, who would have been responsible?
I would have.
You're right. What were your medical expenses?
Before or after insurance?
After insurance.
After insurance, the total was $706.07.
I'm not saying that your son bears any responsibility with regard to this incident, but I believe he has to know that when 10 people are playing basketball, you're not supposed to act like a jerk. right?
Yes, ma'am. We've already established that.
Good. You know, Michael, sometimes when you do the wrong thing, things happen. There are consequences, even those that you don't anticipate. You got to start being a two-process thinker and say, listen, if I do this, this could happen. It's not worth it. Being a fool is not worth it. Being a fool isn't worth it. How long was your arm in a cast?
6 weeks.
And this happened in March, so it was during school.
Yes, ma'am.
You don't even get to relax. When did you get the cast off?
I'm not sure.
End of April.
So you got a chance to enjoy the summer.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. You still friends?
I think so.
Great. Okay. Thank you very much. Judgment for the plaintiff in that $706.
Susan and Lloyd Weaver say the father of their daughter's former best friend, Mark Cooley, owes for a Hawaiian vacation.
Oh, my goodness. Do you really want to be here?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. and Mrs. Weaver, this is your complaint. Your daughter and the defendant's daughter are friends, and you were taking a trip to Hawaii. According to your complaint, you invited Mr. Cooley's daughter to accompany your family on the trip. And the arrangement was that if she were going to go with you, her mother and father, who are divorced, were going to split the cost of her basic trip.
Yes, Your Honor.
Is that right?
That's correct.
And it is your claim that Mr. Cooley, who is her father, did not pay for his half of her trip.
Yes.
Mr. Cooley said that he never had a contract with you, right?
That's correct.
That he was sort of presented with a fait accompli, that he fell on some hard financial times, otherwise he certainly would have wanted his daughter to have this. By the way, she did go with you. His defense is that he never had a contract with you. When were you planning this trip?
February of 2004 is when we first contacted them about planning the trip.
When you say them, who did you contact?
I contacted Brittany's mother because Brittany lives with her mom, and we discussed the option of her being able to go with us.
And what was the arrangement that you made with her mother?
I told her mother that we'd be happy for Brittany to accompany us because she was our daughter's best friend, and that if she would pay for just the airline flight and then the expenses of the activities such as the snorkeling and et cetera that we did there, and that we would be glad to pay for all of her food and then any of the other miscellaneous expenses. And then her mother said that she would have to contact Brittany's father to see if he'd pay for half and let us know. Then she called us and said that she'd spoke with her ex-husband, and he agreed.
Did you speak with him?
We spoke with him 30 days before the trip. He came over to our house. Not that date, not that time.
When did you go on the trip?
December.
So practically a year later.
Correct.
And it wasn't until November that you say that you contacted Mr. Cooley. Is that right?
Yes, because we were unable to get a hold of him.
Had you purchased the tickets already?
Yes, ma'am.
So you purchased the non-refundable tickets based upon the conversation you had with Brittany's mother.
Correct.
Now, you understand that up until this time you had no contract with Mr. Cooley. Do you understand that?
No, ma'am.
Well, I'm going to try to explain it to you.
Okay.
What you did was you had, at best, a contract with Brittany's mother to pay for half the cost of the trip. Brittany's mother cannot obligate Brittany's father to pay for the other half. She can't say he's going to pay for the other half and in any way obligate him. Do you have a sibling?
Yes, ma'am.
Brother or sister?
I have two sisters and a brother.
Okay, let's take the brother. He's easy. What's his name?
Michael.
All right, let's say Michael wanted to have his family room redone. So he went to a contractor, and the contractor said it's going to cost $10,000 to redo your family room. And Michael said, that's fine. I'm going to pay for half, and my sister promised me that she would pay for the other half as a birthday present. So you go ahead and you do this renovation for $10,000. Michael gives him $5,000, and he says, go get the other $5,000 from my sister. What's your first name?
Susan.
Susan. Goes to Susan. Susan says, listen, I told him if I could, one day I would like to make a present of $5,000, but I never agreed to pay you $5,000. I didn't have a contract with you. You want your money, go to Michael. Now do you understand?
I understand that, ma'am, yes.
He may have agreed to something, but up until November, I just want you to understand you had no contract with him.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Thank
Got
you.
it?
Yes, ma'am.
So tell me what happened in November.
Well, my husband spoke with him. I don't know if you want to talk to him as far
I
as
sure
that.
do.
Okay.
He's the only one I can speak to if he spoke to him.
I talked to Mr. Cooley about the expenses that
we had occurred already, purchasing the non-refundable tickets, and that she would need $300 to $400 to pay for the incidental expenses that she would occur as far as the snorkeling, the luau, and that kind of stuff that she would need over there. And he agreed at that time that...
What did he say? Not he agreed. What did he say?
He said the trip sounded good, that it was a one-in-a-lifetime trip for her, that it was something that they had never, ever planned for her to do, and that he would pay his half.
He said he would pay his half.
His half.
And are those the words he used?
To the best of my recollection, yes, Your Honor.
Did he give you any money?
No, ma'am.
So when was he supposed to pay you?
He indicated that he had had some problems health-wise, and at the time he was unable to give us any money. And we told him when he got back on his feet, whenever he could pay us monthly payments or whatever have you. But basically, he had us over a barrel. Brittany. We weren't going to disappoint her and not take her.
Now it's your turn.
Well, first of all, I didn't go to their house at all. My conversation with Mr. Weaver was over the phone, and that was only because in August I went on disability, and I was informing him that I was not going to be able to pay, and he had said, quote unquote, well, give me what you can, and if you can't give me anything, then that's fine, your daughter's going to go anyway. So I mentioned to my daughter that I wasn't going to be able to pay for her trip, and she was going to have to ask her mother to pay for it in its entirety.
Okay. Something that you said to me, Mr. Cooley, however, has an interesting ring to it. You said that you called the Weavers because your financial circumstances changed. You wanted to let them know that you could no longer pay your half. Is that right?
That's true.
Well, that suggests to me, sir, that you had originally told your ex-wife that you would pay for half when she originally called you in February of 2004. Are you following what I'm saying
Yes,
to you? Am I correct, Mr. Cooley, that you originally told your ex-wife that you would pay for half of the expenses?
That is correct. But in February of 2004, I was under the impression that I was only going to help her out on her airfare.
Fine. Let's say that's what you were told, that you were going to pay for half the airfare. Not help her out, half, because the words that you used to me were half, right?
Right.
Now, the airfare was how much?
The exact price was $729.43.
So is what you're telling me now, Mr. Cooley, that what your understanding was that you were going to pay for half the airfare, and that's what you agreed to with your former wife? Don't think of what I'm going to say after that, Mr. Cooley. Believe me, you're never going to be able to leapfrog over my mind. Now, is that what you agreed to with your former wife, to pay for half the airfare?
Right. Well, to be honest with you, my correspondence, don't speak, has been through my daughter.
Is that what you promised your daughter?
Correct.
And your daughter, I assume, conveyed that to her mother?
Yeah.
Brittany, what did you tell your mother?
Well, I told my mom that I was going on the trip and how much it was.
How much did you tell her it was?
I told her that as far as what I knew, it was $350 that she was supposed to pay.
And you told your father the same thing?
That he was supposed to pay $350 also.
And he agreed to that?
Yes.
Good. Now you can sit down. Okay, Mr. Cooley, let us assume everything that you say is correct, that you were going to pay for half the airfare. Why didn't you pay him?
Well, in August, I went on disability, and so my whole financial situation changed.
You already said that to me. But at this point, they had non-refundable tickets, and one way or another, your daughter was going to go. Did you ever think, sir, of saying, I have to send the Weavers $50 a month because I agreed to do that? They took my daughter on a trip. I had a contract with them to pay them half, according to you. Not according to them, but according to you, half the airfare for your daughter.
When I gave them the $150, there was somewhat of an agreement that I could pay monthly.
When did you give them $150?
I gave them $150 upon them coming back from
Give me
their
the
trip.
date. You have the date?
It was January 6th, Your Honor.
And you cashed that check?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. So that's January, February, March, April, May, June, July, 6 months later. And you haven't given them any money since?
Well, in April, the tides had turned because they kind of sent me a threatening letter, or at least I thought it was threatening, informing me that we don't want any ill feelings toward you or your wife, this could affect our daughter and your daughter's friendship.
They're absolutely right. It's a very good reason for you to send a check and say, I'm sorry, I told you that finances were really tight. I realize that this is my obligation. Here's $50. Here's $30. Here is something to demonstrate that I recognize that this is my obligation. You have a letter like that?
No, I don't, Your Honor.
Well, that's the wrong thing. You did the wrong thing, sir. Mr. and Mrs. Weaver, the only contract that I can ascribe to Mr. Cooley is for half of the airfare. And I say that because that's what his daughter says that she told her mother and she told him. So, unfortunately, what?
We sent Mr. Cooley 3 letters advising him that he still owed us money. He sent us a letter back. And in that letter, he said that it's not verbatim.
Show me the letter.
You got it, ma'am?
If what you're saying to me is he acknowledges anything more than
Yes,
the
Your Honor, it does.
airfare.
The letter's several pages long, Your Honor. The first page shows that he agreed to pay half.
Well, let
but
me
it just
see.
says to pay half of Brittany's expenses. The whole letter?
Uh-huh.
And, Your Honor, if I may just say one more thing. Brittany's mom paid us the $550.
I don't care
that
what
she
she
owed
did.
us, so she knew that half of it was $550.
Listen
if I
to
just
me.
might say that.
You cannot ascribe anything to him that Brittany's mother knew.
Okay, I won't say anything else
Nothing.
about that.
If you want to have a contract with somebody, you have to talk to them face to face, or you have to speak to them personally over the phone, and then memorialize it in a written document that is signed. Then it's a contract that you have between 2 people. If you're dealing with children, she could just as easily go to her father and say, listen, I want to be able to go on this trip. It's $200 to go. Will you pay for $200? And he says, sure, I'll pay for $200. And it turns out that it's $2,000. You've already booked the ticket, so you're out $2,000. What am I going to do, put her in jail? Of course not. That's why you don't deal with children when you're making a contract with.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, this is all wrong, sir. You say to them, I agree to pay 1/2 of my daughter's expenses. And if I believe what you say it was based on me being employed. Well, that's not true. That's not true, sir. Your agreeing to pay for half of her airfare was not based upon your being employed, because you didn't have that conversation with your daughter. When you said to your daughter, I'll pay for half of your airfare, you didn't say to her, on condition that I'm still working, right?
Right.
Okay. I had no control over my going on disability, which cut my salary in 1/3. So what? What's that their problem? That's your problem, not theirs. What's the nature of your disability?
Stress.
And you came here? I can see from this rambling letter that you are stressed, Mr. Cooley, so I won't proceed any further. You owe these people an additional $214, and that's giving you every possible benefit of the doubt, sir, that the only thing you agreed to was to pay for 1/2 of her airfare. I mean, I think that if you wanted to be a good guy, you would say to them, listen, I don't want you to be out any money, and I don't want our daughters who were good friends to be estranged, so I'm going to make it my business to see to it that you get the extra $50 a month until it's all paid off. But from a legal perspective, I can't do that. I can, however, find that you agreed to pay for half the airfare. You have already given them $150, leaving a balance of $214. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all.
Parties are excused.
Wayne Otis claims website owner Jamila Donaldson posted his picture on her website.
Mr. Otis, it is your claim that the defendant who runs a website embarrassed you on her website, and you want to be compensated.
Yes.
Ms. Donaldson said that, well, she didn't really embarrass you on the website. She's going to explain to me what the website is all about, but she said whether or not you were embarrassed, she is protected by the Constitution of the United States. That's your defense.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me about this website.
But you want to know what happened that day, or how I got to the website?
Well, why don't, if you don't really understand it, I'll let Ms. Donaldson explain the website to me.
Okay. The website is called hotghettomess.com. hotghettomess.com.
And what is its function?
Well, I started about 1.5 years ago, and the function was I was sort of looking at the images that were coming out of largely the African-American community, and I felt like we were bombarded with these negative images, you know, this glamorization of thug life and thug living, the degradation of women, and just this obsession with all that is low and ghetto. So I thought that I would do the website as sort of a social commentary to say that this is not what we're supposed to be doing. We should not be promulgating these images.
Sounds like a laudable goal.
Yes, thank you. And so the website basically consists of people sending in pictures. And what I do is try to take a lot of images and put them in a context. I think we, in the media, and especially young people with the videos and the movies, we see these images all the time, but no one puts into context and says, this is not good. This is not
Give me
positive.
an example.
I don't have anyone. Oh, well, yes. Okay, here's one.
All right, let me see it.
But I'll also say that in addition to showing hot ghetto mess, I counter that with not ghetto and images that we should strive to be more like. And I'm sorry, Mr. Bird. Here's some of the not ghetto. I sort of counter and try to give a balance. And I also have lyrics on there, lyrics that are being put out, and I contrast positive and negative lyrics. I do movies.
I got it. Just a second.
Sorry, I also have a mission statement.
Just a second.
Okay.
Just a second. I don't want to read your mission statement.
Okay, it's just posted on the website so people know what I'm doing.
Okay. It's really a positive message that you're trying to present by showing good examples of behavior, bad examples of behavior, good examples of images, bad examples of images. You don't select the pictures with the exception of the fact that people send in pictures to you and you put them on the website and say, you're free to comment.
Right.
And somebody sent you in his picture.
Yes, ma'am.
Where did they get the picture from?
It was this online site we have in school. I'm a college student, and it's called Facebook. What it is, it's like a directory of students that go to various colleges.
So you sat for a photograph or submitted a photograph to this book, and from that book, somebody took out the picture and sent it to the defendant.
Yes.
So let me see your page that you're complaining about.
This right here is the profile of myself, and these right here are like the categories, like the people that were centered around mine. So I don't see anything positive around
Well,
those.
let me just see what yours is.
Okay. And it's a little log up there where they get to comment about the pictures.
So she posted this photograph,
Yes.
right? Well, what are you complaining about?
Because she posted my photograph with her company logo on it as if it was her picture. I don't belong on that picture with those people. I mean, look at the category that I'm in.
What category are you in?
I'm in the category called Playboys.
Mr. Rodas,
Yes, ma'am.
isn't a bad picture? It's a very nice likeness, very sexy as a matter of fact. Look like a playboy. What's wrong with that?
I don't like the fact that she also gives them comments. I mean, it's negative comments. No one said anything good.
Well, that's not her fault. Nobody said anything good. But I wouldn't have said anything bad about this picture. If I would have looked at it, I would have said, gee, the handsome guy. Got a sort of a come-hither look. Mr. Rodas, I want you to lighten up a little bit, Mr. Rodas. I don't think, by the way, Ms. Donaldson, that your First Amendment argument is 100% valid because Mr. Rodas is not a public figure. But you don't say anything derogatory about him. Now, let me say that if she posted this picture of you and wrote, bank robber, pedophile, something that wasn't true and just nasty, I would mop up the floor with her and give you whatever you wanted because you are not a public figure and she can't print anything that's not true about you. But once you allow your photograph to be out there as part of a student profile, the internet is something that sort of gobbles up all the information that it can get. It's a sponge. I don't know much about the internet because I don't use that machine myself, but I know that you can find out what kind of microbes live 20,000 leagues under the sea, if anybody wants that information. All you have to do is log in the right whatever. So if once you put your picture out there in public space, and it is in public space if you put it out in a book, it might end up here. So you have to be careful. If this isn't a picture that you particularly liked, you shouldn't have put it in your college profile. Who selected the picture?
I did. I
Right.
loved that picture. I
Well,
loved that
if you
picture.
didn't like the picture and if you thought it presented you in a bad light, then I wouldn't have selected this picture.
But I love that picture.
Good. I'm just saying, I don't think there's anything wrong with this picture. And all she's doing, Miss Donaldson is doing, is saying, what do you think of this picture? Is this the way African-American males want to present themselves? I don't see anything wrong with this picture. Now, somebody may say, I'd rather see him in a cap and gown, you know? I would rather see Colin Powell. I mean, it's got a picture of Colin. But that's somebody's opinion. That's not her opinion necessarily. That's somebody else's opinion. I happen to agree with you. It's a nice picture. A lot of people saw it.
Mm-hmm.
Your friends, did they say to you, gee, that's a horrible picture that really depicts you in a terrible light?
No one said that.
No. I mean, you're not doing anything untoward in this picture. So, my...
Hello, xin chào tất cả các bạn quay lại channel của mình. Hôm nay mình sẽ hướng mọi người góp một chiếc cốc có định hình một con bò cạp. Để góp được nó thì tông màu hôm nay mình sử dụng là tông màu đen. Dụng cụ đó là thước, kéo, bút chì, bút màu và màu dán. Rồi mình xuất tay vào làm. Để làm được nó mình để chiếc cốc là 9 cm. Có dùng kéo cắt vào phần ru nó đây. Cm. Thước kề nó này. Các phần ru nó đi này. Cho nên đây là 4,5 cm. Viên cốc. Kệ nó này. Sau đó cắt vào phần ru của nó đi. Cái 5, 9. Xong nó vào này. Tiếp theo mình làm bò cạp. Rồi mình làm chiếc càng bò cạp trước. dùng kéo cắt vào phần dư của nó đi. Cắt tiếp phần này này. Sau khi là anh càng mình sẽ làm chân vào càng, chân là có 6 cái chân này. Đuôi nó mình làm màu đen luôn. Cắt vào phần dư của nó đi. Theo mắt nó mình dùng màu vàng. Xong cắt vào phần dư của nó đi. Tiếp theo rồi mình gắn chiếc cúc này, mình gắn phần càng trước, càng với đuôi. Chân nó này. Rồi gắn mắt đó đấy. Như vậy nó thành xong chiếc cốc màu đen có đấy hình con bò cạp rồi. Như các bạn thấy hay cho mình like, share và đăng ký kênh nhé. Hẹn gặp lại các bạn ở chương trình lần sau. Xin chào và hẹn gặp lại.